Zion Foster was last seen on January 4th of 2022 at her home in Eastpointe, Michigan. She reportedly left her home with her cousin Jaylin Brazier and has not been seen since. The family of the 17-year-old said they feared that Foster was being held against her will. Ciera Milton is the mother of Zion Foster, and she said that day her daughter asked to hang out with her favorite cousin Jaylin. Milton said Brazier arrived on January 4th of 2022 to pick up Foster. He actually pulled into the neighbor's driveway instead of parking in front of their Foster's home when he picked her up. Her mother said that her daughter sent her the location to a home on Greenfield Road and Vassar Drive. After that, she hasn't been seen or heard from since. Some of the theories reported by Foster's family was that sex trafficking could be a reason for the 17-year-old's disappearance. The timeline of events are as followed. January 4th, Foster is last seen leaving her home with her cousin Jaylin. January 10th, Eastpointe police report Foster missing. January 13th, Jaylin's car is spotted in Waterford Township. January 17th, the family and community members search for Foster on Detroit's west side. January 19th, Jaylin, a person of interest at this time, turns himself into police. January 22nd, Jaylin Brazier, Zion Foster's cousin, is officially arrested in connection with the case. On January 24th, he is charged with lying to authorities during the investigation. The day after she went missing, Jaylin Brazier called Zion's mother, saying that he hasn't seen her in months or even years. The body of Zion Foster has never been found, although the case has been open for over a year and a half at this point. It is reported that Jaylin and Foster were smoking marijuana together that night, January 4th of 2022. Jaylin, who is 24 years old, claims that his cousin stopped breathing for an unknown reason while they were smoking. He said that he panicked and decided to put her body into a dumpster because she wasn't breathing. Officials say that Brazier put the 17-year-old in the trunk of his car and drove her body to a landfill. When Detroit resident Jaylin Brazier turned himself in on January 19th, he did so alongside his lawyer. He admitted he had been lying to police, and 3 days later, he was officially arrested on a warrant connected to his cousin's disappearance. Officials charged him with lying to a police officer in a violent crime investigation and lying to a peace officer. He was arraigned on January 24th of 2022. On March 30th of 2022, Brazier was sentenced to 23 months to 4 years in prison for lying during the investigation of Foster's appearance. But in January of 2023, he was released. 2 months later, a search for Foster's body began on May 31st at Pine Tree Acres landfill in Lenox Township. The massive search was planned for a 100 by 100 foot area. Local crews used heavy machinery to remove about 20 feet of material to search the landfill for Foster's body. Originally, officials said that the search could last as long as 7 to 8 weeks. At the beginning of August, crews dug between 25 to 28 feet. Authorities believe that Foster's body could be buried at least 75 to 100 feet beneath the surface of the landfill. Police say that they searched through 3,500 truckloads of trash. The landfill search concluded on October 12th of 2022. On Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, Wayne County Prosecutor Kym Worthy charged Jaylin Brazier with 1 count of first-degree murder of his cousin, Zion Foster. The following video content will be portions of the trial for Jaylin Brazier in the murder of his cousin, Zion Foster.
You will see that they communicated with each other continuously. When the defendant was 23 years old, Zion was 17 years old. They exchanged a lot of text messages that were sexualized, where the defendant shared vivid and graphic details about his sex life with his 17 or 16-year-old cousin. You will see through these messages that he moved closer and closer into her life, and that on January 4th of 2022, he took things a step further. Late that night, he brought Zion over to his house. They were alone, just the defendant's two young children were asleep upstairs. Zion left the defendant's house that night in the trunk of his car, and he threw her body away in a dumpster like she was a piece of garbage. Now, there are only two people who can say exactly what happened inside of the house that night. One of them is Zion, and she is gone. The other is the defendant, and you will hear that nearly every time he spoke about what happened, his story changed. And although he got rid of Zion's body, you will see that he left behind a trail of digital evidence that is damning and will show you that the circumstances all lead to one and only one explanation for why Zion left his house in the trunk of his car that night, and that's because he murdered her. Now, I want to walk you through everything that you're going to see and hear throughout this case, but first I want to ask you a favor. Because Zion's body was never recovered, this is a case that required a massive investigation. And it's going to require a very meticulous and very detailed presentation over the next couple of weeks to show you the evidence that there is in this case. And so I want to ask you for your patience throughout this process. This case takes us back again to the night of January 4th of 2022. You're going to hear that that night, Zion left her home in Eastpointe. Those closest to her, including her mother and her boyfriend, had the understanding that she was going out that night with the defendant, her cousin. And you're going to see that Zion's last communication with anyone was very early the next morning, January 5th, at about 12:59 a.m., when she texted her boyfriend that she was on her way home. But she never came home that night. She never came home the next morning. Her mother became worried. Her boyfriend became worried. Worry turned to panic. And with the understanding that Zion was last with the defendant, naturally, they turned to him to ask where she was. And you will hear that the defendant denied that he had been with her that night. He claimed that he had no idea where she was. But you're going to hear that Zion's boyfriend, a young man named Vertez Gonzalez, was perhaps a bit jealous that Zion had been hanging out with her older cousin that night, her older step-cousin. And you're going to hear that Zion had location sharing enabled on her phone with her boyfriend. And you're going to see that on Zion's last night, at 11:24 p.m., Vertez Gonzalez took a screenshot of Zion's phone's location, and it showed that her phone was right near the defendant's house on Greenfield Road in Detroit at 11:24 p.m. You will see that the defendant claimed, oh, she must have been down the street, or perhaps she was using his house as an alibi, he claimed. Now, eventually, the police became involved, and this started as a missing persons investigation, and the investigation started in Eastpointe, where Zion lived, where she was reported as missing. And you're going to hear that her family quickly became frustrated with the progress in the investigation because Zion had run away a couple of times before, and the police knew that, and she had always come back home. And they were frustrated that the investigation wasn't being taken seriously enough. Eventually, the Detroit Police Department became involved, so did the Michigan State Police and the FBI. And you will see ultimately that these agencies collectively unturned every stone that they reasonably could to find Zion throughout this investigation. Now, one of the first things that happened when this was still a missing persons investigation was on January 6th of 2022, the day after Zion was reported missing. And you're going to see that when this was still a missing persons investigation at that time, 2 Detroit police officers knocked on the defendant's door, and they asked him about Zion's whereabouts. This was a friendly encounter because it was still just a missing persons investigation. And you're going to see this encounter was recorded on those officers' body-worn camera. And you will see that during this conversation that the defendant very politely and confidently told those officers that he had not been with Zion the night of January 4th, that he hadn't seen her in close to a year back in May of 2021. And you will hear him exploit the fact that she had run away previously, telling those officers she had run away and she was always at some dude's house, he said. Now, eventually the police obtained phone records from both the defendant's phone and from Zion's phone. You see, these phones that we carry around with us on a daily basis, they're constantly interacting with cell towers. And our providers like AT&T or T-Mobile, they keep records of that data. And that data can give investigators a pretty good idea, not a perfect idea, but a pretty good idea of where our phones have been at specific times. And you will see when those records were mapped out, they tell a story. And that story starts at about 10 p.m. the night of January 4th. At around that time, you will see that the defendant's phone was consistent with being in the area of his house on the west side of Detroit on Greenfield Road. At around that same time, at 10:20, Zion's phone was consistent with being on the other side of town in the area of her house in Eastpointe. At that point, the defendant's phone follows a very clear trajectory. It goes from the area of his house on the west side of Detroit directly east to an area in Hazel Park where his girlfriend worked. She worked midnights. And you're going to hear her tell you that he dropped her off that night. And she had no idea that after he dropped her off, that he was going to pick up his 17-year-old cousin and bring her back to the house without her knowing. From Hazel Park, the defendant's phone goes directly to the area of Zion Foster's home in Eastpointe, where you'll see that the phone arrives at approximately 10:42 p.m. And sure enough, you will see ring video footage from across the street from Zion's home, shows that at that time, at around 10:42, a white sedan pulls up near her house. And you're going to hear that the defendant drove a white sedan at that time, a white Acura. Now from there, the defendant's phone followed another clear trajectory. It went from the area of Zion's home back directly west to the area around his home, where he arrived at 11:15. And by 11:15 p.m., you will see that both the defendant's phone and Zion's phone are consistent with being in the same area around the area of the defendant's home. And at that time, at 11:15, you will see that surveillance video from across the street from the defendant's home shows a white sedan in the defendant's driveway, and two people get out of the white sedan and approach the defendant's front door. Now, at 1:15 a.m., just less than 2 hours after Zion arrived at the defendant's home, her phone dropped from the cellular network. It means all of the activity ceased. It's like the phone just vanished. Shortly after that, at 1:41 a.m., you're going to see on that video from across the street of the defendant's house that white sedan pulls out of the driveway and then oddly backs all the way into the driveway. It backs all the way to the tail end of the driveway, pretty much away from the view of the street, and it stays there for a few minutes. And then you're going to see, a few minutes later, one person, and one person alone, comes out of the front door, walks over to that car, a light briefly turns on in the car, and the car pulls away from the defendant's house. Now, at that time, the defendant's phone follows another clear trajectory. Starting at 1:48 a.m., the phone leaves the area of the defendant's house, and it goes down to a very specific parking lot in Highland Park, Michigan. And the phone stays there for about 7 minutes. 7 minutes, and then the phone is consistent with going straight back to the defendant's house, where at 2:15 a.m. you'll see that white sedan pull up on video again. Now that parking lot in Highland Park, where the defendant's phone is consistent with going to and staying for a few minutes in the middle of the night shortly after Zion Foster's phone dropped from the network, that parking lot is pretty much empty. except for one distinctive characteristic. It has several large dumpsters in it. Dumpsters large enough to fit human remains, and you will in fact hear that the defendant ultimately confessed that he put Zion's body into one of those dumpsters that night. Now, the police eventually obtained the defendant's cell phone to perform something called a forensic extraction, which is where the police can hook up a cell phone and use computer software to take all of the data off the phone for analysis, location data, text messages, images, videos, you name it. Only thing was, on the defendant's phone, there wasn't much there. You're going to see that on January 7th, 2 days after he put Zion Foster's body into a dumpster, and 1 day after he told the police that he had no idea where she was, he did something called a factory reset on his phone. It's a complete wipe of the phone. So just as her body vanished, he made all of the digital evidence of the last night of her life vanish with her. But you will see that the police also obtained the cell phone of the defendant's girlfriend, a woman named Katrina Smith. And on Katrina Smith's phone, messages revealed some of the defendant's communications back and forth with Miss Smith on the night of January 4th that helped fill in some of the gaps of his activities that night. Now you're going to hear that that night, while Miss Smith was away at work, while this happened at their home, that she was pregnant, and she was texting the defendant that she wasn't feeling well. And you're going to see that at 1:25 a.m., she texted the defendant, "I think I need to come home." And his response was, "You can make it, baby." This was right after Zion's phone dropped from the network. He didn't agree to come pick his girlfriend up and bring her back from work until after he put his cousin's body in a dumpster. You're going to see that at 2:21 a.m., just minutes after getting home from putting Zion Foster's body in a dumpster, the defendant texted Katrina Smith claiming that their cat scratched his neck. He claimed that he was trying to tickle the cat, and the cat, quote unquote, beat his ass. Now, you're going to hear that the police also obtained some records from the defendant's Google account that were stored in the cloud and separate from his phone that was wiped. And you're going to see that on January 6th, at around 2 in the afternoon, just before the defendant told those Detroit police officers he hadn't seen Zion Foster in close to a year, his phone was consistent with returning back to the area of those dumpsters, back to the parking lot. Now, by then, the dumpster had already been emptied, and Zion's body would have been long gone. But you will see that just after leaving that area, that the Google search history recovered directly from Google shows that he Googled the following phrases: "Are trash trucks also compactors? And what is the force of a garbage truck compactor?" Now, January 19th, 2 weeks later, was a significant day for the investigation. Up until that point, a search of the defendant's home had not revealed any evidence. But that day, the police also searched the defendant's car, that white sedan, that white Acura. And you will hear that to search the defendant's car, the police used something called a cadaver dog, which is a dog that is specially trained to detect the odor of human remains. And you're going to hear that when that dog searched through the defendant's car, the dog indicated that it detected the odor of human remains in 2 different areas of the trunk of the defendant's car. You're also going to hear that that same day, January 19th, the defendant came into the Detroit Police Department voluntarily and turned himself in. And he made a statement, he agreed to make a statement in front of the police with a lawyer that he had at that time, who's now deceased, a man by the name of Gary Jones. Now, recall that before that day, before January 19th, the defendant's claims had primarily been that he had no idea where Zion was, he wasn't with her that night that she disappeared, and had no idea what was going on. This day, January 19th, he gave a different version. He said, after all, he was with her that night. He brought her back to his house late at night, and they smoked some marijuana. Only he claimed that after smoking marijuana, that she just oddly died for no apparent reason in his presence. And that his reaction, you will hear him calmly and confidently say, was not to call 911, but to put her body in the trunk of his car and dispose of her remains. The very next day, you're going to hear that he sat down with another investigator and gave another statement and another version of what happened. This time he said they actually used LSD together, and that must have been what killed her. After making those statements, you're going to hear that the defendant got onto recorded phone lines from jail and immediately distanced himself from those statements, essentially claiming that he said what he said because his lawyer told him to turn the heat down on the investigation. Well, it didn't work. You're going to hear that at around this time, the defendant was charged in Macomb County for lying to the police for some of the statements he had made to an Eastpointe detective in connection with Zion's disappearance. And he was ultimately sentenced to a brief term of prison while the murder investigation proceeded. While the murder investigation proceeded, on June 10th of 2022, two investigators sat down and took another statement with the defendant, and he gave another version of what happened. This time he said that whole LSD thing, that was a lie that he made up. It's as though every time he spoke, he tried to erase what he had said about this before. And in fact, you will hear that recently he placed a call that's recorded in which he asked his girlfriend to research the pros and cons of recanting a statement in a criminal case. Now, equipped with these claims that the defendant made that Zion somehow suddenly died in his presence, the police wanted to investigate the medical plausibility of that claim. And so they obtained Zion's medical records from Henry Ford Health System and got about 630 pages of records dating back to 2016 when Zion was just a little girl. And you're going to hear that an assistant medical examiner with Wayne County by the name of Dr. Lee Labadie, who's a forensic pathologist who's trained to determine the cause and manner of death. She analyzed Zion's medical records. She also analyzed them in reference to the defendant's claims that he made about the supposed spontaneous circumstances of Zion's passing. And you're going to hear a couple of key things in her testimony. Number one is that Zion had no documented history of any medical condition that would explain her suddenly passing away the way that the defendant described. Number two, you're going to hear that people don't die from marijuana overdoses and people don't die from LSD overdoses. And you will hear Dr. Labadie explain that nothing in the way that the defendant described of Zion's passing was consistent with any other type of drug overdose death. Number three, you're going to hear that Zion's boyfriend, Bertez Gonzalez, will tell you that at one point he saw Zion have what he understood was a brief seizure, where he describes that she passed out for a few seconds and then came right back to it. Dr. Labadie will tell you that in all of Zion's medical records, that there is no indication that Zion was ever diagnosed with a seizure disorder, that she suffered from any symptoms of seizures, and she will tell you that the way that the defendant described her sudden passing was not consistent with the seizure. And Dr. Labadie will further tell you that even if it was, in all the thousands of cases that she's worked on, she's never seen an otherwise healthy teenager die from a seizure. But she has seen plenty of people die from violence. And the bottom line is that she will opine that there is no medical plausibility to the description that the defendant gave of how Zion supposedly died in his presence without any intervention on his part. Now, if Zion's body had been recovered, these questions could have been answered. Even if her body was recovered long after he put her in a dumpster. Was she choked? Was she raped? Did she die somehow of some inexplicable natural cause? So the search for Zion's body became paramount in the investigation. And you're going to hear how the police meticulously traced they tried to identify the garbage truck that first dumped the specific dumpster that Zion's body was believed to have been put in. They traced that truck using video to something called a transfer station, where garbage is briefly dumped before being compiled and hauled off to landfill. They tried to identify using more video the specific semi-truck that would have hauled off the contents of that specific dumpster, and they traced that all the way to a landfill to a specific area. And you're going to hear that a team of volunteers dug in that area. They dug for months and months and months trying to find Zion's remains. Unfortunately, they didn't find her. You're going to hear that this was publicly reported. The media covered this landfill search that was going on. And while this landfill search was winding down in the fall of 2022, you're going to see that while the defendant was finishing up his prison term at that time for the Macomb County case, that he had a flurry of communications with his girlfriend, Katrina Smith. Some of those communications were over a recorded phone line from the prison. Some of those communications were over a phone that he had hidden in his prison cell that he was using to text his girlfriend with. And you're going to see not once in those communications does the defendant express hope that Zion's body is recovered by the police. Instead, you will see that at one point he sent his girlfriend a link to this article entitled, "If I'm a suspect in a murder but a body is never found, can I be charged?" You're going to see that after he sent that link to her, he followed up with a message saying, "I know, baby, and it's okay. I plan out every step, so relax. And the attachment I just sent is the main one." And he followed that up by saying, "There is nothing to worry about." Well, he was wrong. You don't get away with murder just by getting rid of a body. And as a result of all of this, the defendant stands charged with second-degree murder, and he stands charged with tampering with evidence. And at the conclusion of this case, I'm going to ask that you find that based on all of the circumstances in this case, there is no innocent explanation for him putting Zion Foster's body into a dumpster in the middle of the night after bringing her to his house alone in the middle of the night after months of sexualized text messages and before a campaign of obstruction to make all of the evidence of that night disappear, including lie after lie after lie. I'm going to ask that at the end of this case, you tell him what the truth is by delivering a verdict that says that he's guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Worthy.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My theory of the case is quite different. My reviewing of the evidence is quite different than Mr. Elson's. Now, he just has a theory. My theory is that this is a case of fear and bad decisions. My client and Zion Foster were favorite cousins. You would hear that from multiple people, that they were favorite cousins. They hung out a lot. Zion would come over to the house, babysit the children that Mr. Brazier has with his child's mother. You're also going to hear that Zion had a history of depression. She threatened to kill herself at least one time. She also had a history of seizures and taking seizure medication. Now, on this particular day, she came over to Jaylin's house. They were smoking. Jaylin told the police after some time that she had shallow breathing and a faint heartbeat. He checked her to see if she was alive, and she was dead. He then feared, because he was doing drugs, which is still federally illegal, that he could be blamed for something, and he panicked. Her family was threatening Jaylin and his family, his mother. So he was scared. He had to move his children from the house because there was multiple threats on the house and the family members. Other family members who knew nothing about this were being threatened. He then secured their safety, turned himself in to the police, had to secure a lawyer at that particular time, and he told the police what happened. He told them that he picked her up, they were doing drugs, she passed out, he checked for vital signs, and there was none, and he panicked. He then made a bad decision after that. Now the prosecutor wants you to believe that there was some sexually charged messages prior to this incident. Absolutely not. There was a communication where Zion had asked Jaylin, hey, what you're doing? And he made a comment saying, I'm over here getting head or oral sex from this girl. She doesn't know what she's doing. And that just substantiates the relationship that Zion and Jaylin had, where they could talk about multiple things. They could talk about each another's relationship. It was nothing sexual that was aimed towards Zion, say, hey, I want you to come over and finish this, or I want you to come over and do A, B, and C. Nothing of the sort. Nothing at all. They were very close. There was a medical examiner who had rendered an opinion, and that opinion was based upon insufficient and incomplete information. When the medical examiner made that analysis or opinion, she didn't know that Zion had a history of seizures. That was not disclosed to the medical provider. She also didn't know that Zion had a history of depression and taking antidepressants. Now, when she was confronted with this information, the medical examiner admitted that had she known this information prior, her analysis would be different. Her opinion would be different because it is very possible that a person who has a history of seizures, who's epileptic, could die suddenly. Especially if they don't take medicine, then that could basically make the problem a lot worse. And some of the symptoms she described of reading that Jaylin told the police, from her own words, was consistent with somebody who's close to death. The shallow breathing and the faint heartbeat, in her opinion, was somebody close to death. And that's what had happened. Now, Jaylin was scared. He may have not made the right decisions, but at the end of the day, that does not make him a murderer. He panicked, did something that he should have, is by dumping the body, but he admitted to that. He told the police as soon as he had a lawyer in his corner, and the police themselves even said they believed him. Had they not believed him, no way would they be searching in this particular landfill for 6 months looking for a body. Now, it is unfortunate that the body was never recovered, because had that body been recovered, then they would be able to substantiate what Jaylin told her, that she either had a seizure, it could have been something laced in the marijuana, we don't know. But the symptoms that Jaylin told the police were consistent with her dying of something that either she had internally or possibly something that she ingested that could have contributed or made any situation she previously had that much worse. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of this trial, I don't believe that the prosecutor will meet that burden to prove that Jaylin caused the death of Zion Foster. He would like you to fill in that blank for him and assume something that he would not be able to prove. So you must come back with a not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you're going to be asked a series of questions. Please wait till each question is fully asked before you respond. We'll have one person talking at a time. Please try to avoid a natural tendency for non-verbal answers such as shrugs of the shoulder, nods of the head, as well as uh-huh and uh-huh, because those don't translate into the record. If there's an objection, please stop talking until it's resolved. Please keep your voice up, and if you would, please state your name and spell it.
My name is Ciera Milton, Ciera. M as in Mary, Ilton as in Nancy.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Milton. Do you know somebody by the name of Zion Foster?
Absolutely.
And what was your relationship with Zion?
It's my oldest. It's my baby.
And when was she born?
November 20th, 2004.
And when was the last time that you saw Zion alive?
January 4th, 2022.
How old was she at that time?
She had just turned 17.
I'm holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 1. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ma'am, does People's Proposed Exhibit 1, is that a photo of Zion?
Yes.
And does that fairly and accurately depict what she looked like?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move to admit Proposed Exhibit 1.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted?
May I publish?
Yes.
I want to start with some background questions. You said the last time you saw Zion was January 4th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
When was the last time you had any sort of communication with her? Text messages, phone calls, was it that same day?
It was that night, January the 5th, 12:59 a.m.
Okay. And at around that time, where did you live?
In Eastpointe,
And what was your address at that time?
22166 Melrose Court.
And did Zion live with you at that time?
Yes.
Was Zion in school at that time?
Yes.
Where did she go to school?
East Detroit High School.
And what grade was she in?
12.
And did Zion have her own cell phone?
She did.
And do you recall what her number was at that time?
313-913-5931.
Okay. And at some point after Zion went missing, did you provide that phone number to the police?
Yes.
Did Zion have a bank account that she used?
Yes.
And what bank did she have an account with?
Navy Federal Credit Union.
And did you also provide that information to the police at some point?
Yes.
Did Zion have social media like Instagram?
Yes.
And do you know what her Instagram username was?
I love Ra. Is IILOVE.RA.
Okay. And did you provide that information to the police as well?
Yes.
And did Zion also have an email address that she used?
Yes.
And do you remember what it was?
Rachel Zion 04 at Gmail.
Okay. And did you give that over to the police too?
Yes.
Did Zion have a particular medical provider that she used for just normal doctor visits?
Mm-hmm.
And
My previous employer, Henry Ford.
Henry Ford, okay.
Yes.
And did she see any other providers other than Henry Ford?
Maybe Beaumont.
And how long ago would she have seen Beaumont?
A long time ago. Probably before she was 10. I'm not certain.
Okay, but anything from, you'd say, age 10 onward would be Henry Ford?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. And were you aware of Zion having any type of serious medical conditions?
No.
Was she someone who, would you say, was she treated regularly by a doctor?
Yes.
Checked up on regularly?
Yes.
And Did you ever hear of Zion having any type of disorder concerning seizures?
No.
Do you have other children who have seizures?
Yes.
How many children do you have, ma'am?
6.
6. And how many of them have seizures, if you know?
1.
1. And how old is your child who has seizures?
He just turned 3.
Okay. And at what point was he diagnosed with seizures?
When about a month after he was born.
Okay. And so when Zion was still with you, that was going on with her younger brother being diagnosed with seizures, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see Zion have, I guess having a son who has seizures, are you familiar with what seizure symptoms look like?
Yes.
Did you ever see Zion have any symptoms like that?
No.
Did you ever see her pass out briefly?
No.
Are you familiar with somebody by the name of Jaylin Brazier?
Yes.
And what's your relationship to him, if you can describe that?
He's my ex-husband's cousin.
Okay. And so would he have been sort of like step cousins with Zion? Is that accurate?
Yes.
And do you happen to see Mr. Brazier in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And just for the record, if you could just point to him and describe what he's wearing.
He's right here in the blue suit with the green shirt.
Thank you. If the record could reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
So reflective. We need to take a quick break. Sorry to do this at this point.
In between you and Zion at that time, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. When she ran away that first time, during the time that she was gone, did you have any sort of contact with her?
Yes.
And what sort of contact did you have? Was it over phone, in person?
It was both. Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you, I guess during that time that she first ran away, did you have an understanding of where she was?
Yes.
She wasn't staying at your home, though, is that correct?
Correct.
Where was she, if you know?
I know that she was at her friend Alima's house, and it would be between there and family members' houses.
Okay. And during that sort of first runaway incident, did you go to the police at any point to report that she had run away?
Yes, at the very beginning.
Okay. How about this? You said there was a second time too?
Yes.
And do you recall about how long after the first time did the second time happen?
When she came back home, I want to say maybe it was about a week. It was almost immediately, because I just wouldn't have certain things happening.
Okay. And so was there sort of anything else specific that led to her running away that second time?
Yes, the house that I had was pretty big. She wanted to have her own space, and specifically, she wanted to smoke weed. I was like, no, you don't need to smoke weed. But you can't control kids and know where they are all of the time.
Okay. And the second time that she ran away, approximately how long was she away?
Probably about a week or two.
And during that time, did you have any sort of communications with her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did you sort of develop an understanding of where she was during that time?
Yes.
And where was she?
Over at her granny's house.
Okay. And during the second period where she had run away, did you go to the police that time?
I did initially, yes.
Okay. And the two times that you went to the police about her running away, which police department was it that you went to?
Eastpointe.
Okay. Now, other than these sort of issues, it sounds like there was some friction between the two of you, mom and daughter stuff, right?
Yes.
Was there anything else that you knew of that was going on significantly in Zion's life at around this time that was causing distress in any sort of way?
Yes, her granny had been diagnosed with cancer and pretty much didn't have much longer.
Okay. And you mentioned that Zion smoked marijuana, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know whether she used any sort of other controlled substances?
No.
Do you know whether she drank?
No.
Did she ever have any sort of significant mental health issues that you were aware of?
I know that she was sad about, what was going on, and but no.
Okay.
No, there wasn't anything.
Did you ever take her to like a therapist or anything like
Yes,
that?
I did.
And do you know what she was treated for by the therapist?
Like anxiety and depression.
Okay. And do you know whether she took any medication or was prescribed any medication for anxiety and depression?
Yes, to both. She was both given medication, and she did take it for a short time.
Okay. And did she ever, that you're aware of, did she ever try to kill herself or anything like that? Was there any self-harm issues
No.
with Zion? Did she ever talk about doing harm to herself?
No.
So I want to take you back to January 4th of 2022. So that night, were you with Zion at all?
Yes.
And where were the two of you together?
In my bedroom.
Okay. And would that be at your home in Eastpointe?
Yes.
And at some point did Zion leave your home that night?
Yes.
And was there any sort of discussion about what she was going to be doing or where she was going to be going that night?
Yes. We had to make things that were very open. She told me she asked if she could go with Jaylin to smoke in the car.
Okay. And did you like approve of that, I guess, of her going?
Yes. At least I know where she's at. And what
I'm getting a sense maybe it was like sort of a reluctant approval.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember approximately what time she left that night?
10:40, 10:50, something like that. Around, it was closer to 11.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now, had the defendant come by to pick her up before this to go out with her?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything different about? I mean, let me, I guess, backtrack. Previous times when the defendant came to pick up Zion, would you have interaction with the defendant directly?
Yes.
And can you, I guess, describe what that interaction was like?
There was a time he was in my driveway, and she let me know he was here. And I came out, and we were like, oh my God, hi. Hadn't seen each other in a while. And, a hug and a little bit of chatter, and that was it.
Okay. And how about on the night of January 4th? Did you have any interaction with the defendant directly?
No.
Was there anything strange about that? What was strange?
There was no interaction, and where he drove and how he pulled in and everything else. Normally he would pull into the driveway. This time he did not.
And now, the following morning, let me ask you this. Did you go to bed at a certain point that night?
I was almost asleep around that time, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time that you went to bed, was Zion was she not home at that time?
Yes.
Okay. When you woke up the next morning, was she home at that point?
No.
Have you heard from her at all since then? Any text messages? Are you aware of any social media activity on her part?
No.
You haven't seen her?
No.
Are you aware of anyone else having contact with her
No.
since that point? So, is there a point at which you start to become worried?
Absolutely.
When did you start to become worried?
When Vertez contacted me, and he hadn't heard from her either.
Okay.
Panic took over, and then it got worse when I got a phone call from Jaylin.
Okay. Did you sort of have any contact with the police eventually?
Yes.
And which department did you go to at first?
Eastpointe.
And what sort of interactions did you have with Eastpointe, if you recall?
I went in and I told them that my daughter was missing. I explained who she was with, where she was at, and that I and no one else had heard from her. The police told me to write a statement on a random sheet of paper. They told me that I didn't need to fill it out on the form that would normally be used to fill out for what I'm coming there for. One of the officers laughed and told me that, I'd give her a whooping. She just keeps on running away like this. Another time I come back because I'm really pressing. And the officer sat down. James and I went, James is Zion's biological father. James and I went up there. He sat down, he crossed his legs, and he said, I'm going to be just serious with you. We're looking at this like she's a runaway. And
so in these sort of early days after Zion disappeared, were you getting the help that you felt you needed?
Absolutely not.
Okay. What did you do? Did you take things into your own hands to some degree?
Yes.
And walk us through what sort of steps did you take to try to figure out what was going on?
I made flyers and posters. I posted on social media. I tagged news outlets. We did rallies. And I kept going to Jaylin's house. And to get any information. He invited me over to take a look at his Ring camera footage. But he had already removed the blocks of time in which Zion was there. That would show.
That causes speculation.
Let me try to ask some more
Steve.
pointed questions about that. And I guess we'll cover that later. So it sounds like you made some efforts to try to raise awareness that Zion was missing. Is that correct?
Very much so.
And did you had some contact with the police, right?
Yes.
You had some contact with people in Zion's life, like her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you also have some contact with the defendant directly?
Yes.
And was your contact with the defendant, what was the sort of contact that you had? Did you text him? Did you talk to him? Did you see him personally?
Initially, it was a phone call.
Okay.
He called me, and he told me, I don't know why Zion would lie. I haven't seen Zion in years or months. I just haven't seen her. I wouldn't even be around her. Like, what am I supposed to do with that, you know? And then he told me, I have a child on the way. I wouldn't be trying to get into any type of anything. I don't know where she would be at. And then there was the invitation to come over and check the Ring camera.
Okay, and do you remember which day you went over to look at his camera? Was it early on?
It was early on.
Okay.
Probably about the 6th, 7th, somewhere around in there probably.
And what was his sort of stated purpose of him having you over to look at the cameras?
To prove that Zion was not ever there.
Okay, and can you explain to the jury just in general terms, like what his camera system was like, what you were able to, just how you were able to look at it, if you can?
Yes. It's a monitor with buttons that are on the side. And on the monitor, there are blocks of time with videos of it. And they're one after another. And if you touch one, you can see the time span in which that footage is happening. And so there is, as an example, 9 to 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 o'clock, 12 to 1 o'clock, things like that. And so everything is consecutive.
When you were looking at that monitor directly, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you looked at that, did you look at times corresponding to January 4th and January 5th of 2022?
I did look for them.
Were there any that you saw?
No.
Okay. While this was all going on, were people from the community trying to bring information to you too?
Yes.
And can you just discuss kind of what that looked like, what was going on with that?
There was a neighbor across the street from Jaylin, and she had footage from her security camera, and she brought the footage over to me for me to see.
And was this when you were at the defendant's house?
Yes.
At one point, you had some interaction with the neighbor?
Yes.
And did you look at the footage that she had directly?
Yes.
And did that footage appear to show images of the defendant's house?
Yes.
From across the street?
Yes.
And did you obtain that footage directly from that neighbor?
Yes.
And did you ultimately also provide that footage to the police?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm holding what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit 21. It's a disc. Did we review that video earlier?
Yes.
And is that video still in substantially the same condition it was in when you obtained it directly from the neighbor?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that video is on this disc that's marked proposed exhibit 21?
Yes.
I move to admit proposed exhibit 21, Your Honor.
I would object if this is a camera that was provided to her. She's not in a position to testify to the authenticity of the date or this particular video of what it purports to be that it is. So I believe she's the wrong witness to authenticate this particular video.
Any response?
I think there's sufficient evidence to establish that the exhibit is what it purports to be, that this video that comes from across the street of the defendant's house. I am
And
calling...
she obtained it from the owner of the...
She obtained it from the owner of the house. I am planning on calling the homeowner on Friday for further authentication if it's needed.
Hey, it's a good...
Thank you, Your Honor. And did you also to possession of some video from across the street of your house?
Yes.
And how did you come into possession of that video?
I went to the neighbor across the street from where I live, and she invited me in. And
okay, and was that a Ring camera?
yes.
And did you ultimately actual digital copies of that video?
Yes. She sent me the link.
And was that link directly from Ring?
Yes.
And to download the actual digital versions of the video?
Yes.
And did you review that video?
Yes.
And in that video, does that show your house on it?
Yes.
And would that be from the night of January 4th
Yes.
of 2022? And did we also review that video together?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that that video is on this disc that's been marked as proposed exhibit 22?
Yes.
And again, is that video in substantially the same condition it was in when you downloaded it directly from Ring?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 22, Your Honor.
Similar objection. I believe she's the right witness to authenticate that this particular video came from a particular day. She may be able to testify that it shows her house, but she's not in that this video actually purports it came from is actually accurate.
I think there's been sufficient authenticity that's admitted. But that's exhibit number...
22, Your Honor.
Okay.
Other than getting these videos from these other folks, was there anybody out there trying to take advantage of the situation that you had to experience?
Yes.
And help explain what was going on with that, just in general terms, if you can.
I received tons of phone calls from people who wanted to tell me that they...
Objection to whatever these people told them not to be here, so Your Honor.
None of this is being offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. This is specific to like fraudsters trying to exploit the situation that which is part of the process that she was dealing with while all this was going on.
All right.
So let me ask you this way: were people claiming to have information about Zion's whereabouts,
Yes.
and were they asking for something in return?
Yes.
Can you just, I guess, briefly describe what, how this sort of process played out for you?
Threats, they wanted money. They wanted money. They wanted me to give them money for information without proof that my daughter was with them or that she was alive.
Okay. And in response to receiving some of these threats or some of this information, did you take that to the police?
Yes.
At some point, did you know whether Zion had more than one phone?
Yes.
I'm holding what's been marked as closes at 85. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm handing you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 85. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
And what is that?
One of Zion's phones.
That's like an older phone that she had? That
Yes.
she, to your understanding, was she actively using that?
It would be used for like YouTube to entertain the baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at some point, did you turn that phone over to an Eastpointe police detective?
Yes.
And does that phone appear to be in substantially the same condition it was in when you turned it over to the Eastpointe police?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, I'd move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 85.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
Now, I want to ask about some text messages, and I want to start with People's Proposed Exhibit 2. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And I'm showing you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 2. Is this a screenshot that you took? And what does that screenshot show?
Yes, it is a screenshot of Jaylin's contact information in my phone.
Okay. And does that screenshot fairly and accurately depict the contact that you had for the defendant in your phone back in January of 2022?
Yes.
Thank you. And you provided that to the police at some point?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 2.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted?
And, Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
And Ms. Milton, just for the record, what was the number that you had for the defendant in your phone at that time?
313-575-3450.
Okay, and what's shown on the screen here, is that just a duplicate of what you're holding in your hand that's marked as Exhibit 2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I also am holding what has been marked as People's Proposed Exhibits 3 through 8. Your Honor, may I approach again?
Yes.
Can you take a look at those proposed exhibits and tell me just in general terms what those are?
Text messages between Jaylin and I.
Okay, and are those, all of those exhibits, are those screenshots that you took from your phone?
Yes.
And are those screenshots fair and accurate depictions of the text messages that you had with the defendant back in January of 2022?
Yes.
And at some point, did you provide all of those images to the police?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit proposed exhibits 3 through 8.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, they're admitted?
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to start with proposed exhibit, or I'm sorry, exhibit 3. If you can take a look at that, Ms. Milton, you see how there's some messages in gray and some that are in green?
Yes.
Who are the messages in gray attributed to?
Jaylin.
Okay, and who are the messages in green attributed to?
Me.
And do you see the date up at the top of these messages?
Yes.
And what is the date that is reflected there?
January 5th, 2022.
And what's the very first message that the defendant sent that's reflected here? Can you read that out loud, please?
Hey, I'm talking to my girl about Zion, and we were wondering how often did Zion say she was with me, because that's wild.
Okay, and is there an emoji there?
A crying emoji.
Okay, and then what's the follow-up message that he wrote?
This is just Jaylin, by the way.
And what did you write in response to him?
Once or twice a month at this point.
And what was his response to that?
That high key is annoying, the laughing out loud, because why pull me into whatever she got going on? And thank you.
Okay, and when you say the laughing out loud, you're referring to the emoji?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your response to that?
Because I trust you. So why would I question it? SMH, I'm sad and angry.
And what was his response to that?
Right, I get your perspective, but that's sneaky as hell and not safe.
I want to move to Exhibit 4. What's the top message that he wrote say?
Do you use like Ring cameras on your house or anything? Could at least look at those if so.
And what was your response?
No, I need them, with a sad face emoji.
And what was his very next message?
It's a screenshot of his phone. It says the address her boyfriend said she was at last they spoke. And it's like down the way from my place. So I'm thinking she was with someone in the area and said she was with me, because off location on iPhone it would be believable.
And are these all from January 5th,
Yes.
2022?
Yes.
So this is right after Zion didn't come home for the
Yes.
night? I want to go to Exhibit 5. What's the next message say up at the top?
And maps on iPhone is on point as hell. I don't really want to get involved, but if you want me and my girl can go to the address and knock on the door. Would need a picture to show whoever opened the door.
And what did you do in response to receiving that message?
I said please, and I sent him a couple of photos.
Were those photos of Zion?
Yes.
I want to move to Exhibit 6. What's the top message that he wrote?
Okay, NP. Can you send me a picture and I'll call you when we're at the address? Do you know what she had on last night?
And what did you respond?
I believe her work clothes, DWC, Detroit Wing Company.
And did Zion work at Detroit Wing Company?
Yes.
What did she do there?
She was a server.
Okay. And what's the next message that he wrote?
Any updates?
And what was your response to that?
No.
And what did he write after that?
If this isn't like her, I'd go straight to the police. Crying emoji. And try to stay positive. She's probably okay.
And do you see the next date and time reflected there?
January 5th, 9:24 p.m.
And what's the next message that he wrote?
Hey, I'm really getting fed up with the back and forth with people asking me have I seen Zion or if she was over.
I want to move to Exhibit 7. The top message, does that include the sort of remaining portion of the message that you just read?
Coming from Exhibit 6, he says, I'm telling you respectfully as my auntie that you at any point can come over. We have cameras too, so that you can see with your own eyes that this girl was not over here.
And what was the next message that he sent?
And her boyfriend sent me this as he location earlier, so IDK how it was, what's going on. I don't even know how he had my number to start with.
And then in terms of Exhibit 8, what's the top message that you wrote to him say?
Hey babe, I believe that she's not there. I filed a missing persons report. The boyfriend and best friend I don't really know, so I can't speak for them. They contacted everyone though. Still haven't heard from my baby though.
And what did he write in response?
I completely understand, auntie. Just got me and my girl stressed, and she's pregnant, and we got too much going on for this. But I'm still all hands on deck if need be to help you. Love you. Good night.
And what did you write in response to that?
I figured. Love you too. Congratulations. Good night. With a ton of emojis.
And what was his response after that?
On January 6th, he said, hey, my mom asked for whatever extra flyers you have so I can take it to her. Back at my house now.
Okay, and was this when you were in the process of distributing flyers about Zion?
Yes.
And he offered to help with that?
Yes.
At some point, did the police ask you to look through some photos to see if you recognize any of Zion's belongings in those photos?
Yes.
And did you recognize anything?
No.
Okay. And do you know, did Zion have her nails done?
Yes.
What were her nails like at around the time that you last saw her?
They're long and pink, and these are in the picture that was on Exhibit 5. That's how her nails were.
Okay. So it would be, we can, so that top photo would show? Okay.
Yes.
Now, at some point, did you go to a court proceeding in Macomb County Circuit Court?
Yes.
And was that a sentencing hearing?
Yes.
And did you hear the defendant speak at that hearing?
Yes.
And did you hear him say something different from what he'd been telling you in these text messages?
Yes.
And to your recollection, what did you hear him say?
He said that that they were smoking together, and that he looks over and she was just dead. And then he says he panicked.
Were you aware of, I know I asked you about the seizure issue before, were you aware of Zion having any medication for seizures?
No.
If Zion had needed a prescription filled, who would have been the one to get that filled for her?
You mean like a person or the company?
Like, Zion, you said Zion was on medication for some
Yes.
stuff, correct?
Yes.
Who would get Zion her medication?
Me.
Okay. And you never got her any seizure medication, correct?
No.
And in terms of Exhibit 85, Zion's prior phone, do you know whether anyone else had access to this phone or was using this phone besides Zion?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Good morning.
Morning.
Now,
Okay, right here, I just want to give you guys a heads up. This attorney, I just knowing my subscribers and knowing how y'all are, you're going to have a blast with this guy, because the defense is someone that probably, I think he's Daryl Brooks's cousin. I'm not even kidding. He mispronunciates words. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. The questions he asks bounce back and slap him in the face. I mean, it's just, it's not comical because of, if this guy didn't do anything wrong, then this is who's defending him. But I don't know. It's not looking good for Jaylin. But I do also, one other thing quickly before I get off and move forward with the trial. I have been mispronouncing his last name. It's Brazier. And I think before I had been saying Brazier, but it's Brazier. All right, let's go.
when the prosecutor asked you what type of relationship that Zion and Jaylin had, you kind of hesitated in asking to rephrase. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. But isn't it true that Zion, and you knew that Zion referred to Jaylin as her favorite cousin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you do know the relationship, the extent of the relationship, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you don't remember, you don't know if she had any seizures, correct? Or to your knowledge, she didn't have seizures, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you do remember her being on antidepressants, at least now, correct? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because remember at the preliminary examination, you were asked this very specific question, whether or not she saw a psychiatrist, and you stated you didn't remember. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you couldn't remember whether or not she took antidepressants. You remember that? You don't remember saying that? You don't remember?
No.
Okay. But you do admit that you said you didn't remember whether or not she saw a psychiatrist, correct?
I remember being asked a ton of questions by you.
Okay.
But I don't remember all the answers.
So you don't remember it. So are you denying that you said you don't remember whether or not she was seeing a psychiatrist?
No, I'm not denying it.
Okay. Now, did you speak with the prosecutor prior to today's testimony? Did they indicate that you needed to be truthful, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak about her going to see a psychiatrist?
I'm sorry.
Did you speak about her going to see a psychiatrist prior to the testimony today?
No,
You didn't?
no.
Okay. Now, she had a history of leaving the house, correct? She did it at least 2 times, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you guys were having some issues, correct?
yes.
Okay. And one of the issues was she confided with you that she may have been improperly touched by a family member, correct?
No, that wasn't one of the issues, but she did tell me that, yes.
She told you that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she was upset with that, correct?
She did say yes.
Okay. And you never went to the police about that, did you?
The person that she blamed?
You never went to the police about that, correct?
No.
Okay. Did you believe her?
If she says it happened.
Okay. Now, you also stated the reason she left was because you wouldn't allow smoking weed in your house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But at the preliminary examination, you testified that you allowed her to smoke weed in your house, didn't you?
Yes, it's a different time though.
Okay. So at a different time, you allowed her to smoke weed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you never inspected this marijuana that she was smoking, did you?
No.
Okay. And you don't know where she got this marijuana from, do you?
No.
Okay. So you don't know whether or not this marijuana had other substances that were mixed in there, do you?
No.
Okay. Now, one of the times you stated that she went away from the house, she was with her friend Alima?
Yes.
Okay. And how long was she over there for?
Probably about a week to 2. I said a week. A month to 2 months.
Okay. And would you classify Alima as her best friend?
One of them.
One of them? Okay. How many best friends did she have?
There was 2.
Okay. Do you know the other friend's name?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
Asia.
Asian. Okay. Now, which best friend were you communicating with in an attempt to try to find Zion after she went missing?
Everyone.
Okay. You just read one of the prosecutor's exhibits where you indicated the boyfriend or the best friend. I don't really know him like that. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which best friend were you speaking of? Alima. Okay. So you didn't know her like that, right? That'd be a fair statement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so when she was over Alima's house for these couple of weeks, she was over somebody's house that you really didn't know well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you didn't know if there were other individuals over that house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when she returned back from over there, she acted differently, didn't she?
No.
She didn't?
No.
Okay. When she left, when she was over at her grandmother's house, did she act different when she came back?
No.
Okay. You don't remember testifying at a preliminary examination stating that when she got back from being away from your house, she cried a lot?
Her grandmother was dying.
So she's acting differently, correct? But you didn't state that at the preliminary examination that her grandmother was dying, did you? Did you?
I don't know.
Okay. You didn't. Would that be a fair statement? Would you disagree with that?
I could not say yes or no because I
Okay.
don't know if that was even brought up. I don't think I was actually given the chance to say.
Now, how many visits did you take her on to see this psychiatrist?
Like maybe one,
Okay.
once or twice.
And she was prescribed medication for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know whether or not she was taking her proper dosages, correct?
Oh no, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Did you administer it to her?
No, I watched her.
At the exam, I asked you whether or not did you know she was taking her intended doses. You indicated no.
So,
Isn't that correct? You indicated no at the exam. Yes or no?
I don't remember.
Page 61, line 4. From August 8th. Question, and you don't know if she was abusing these medications, correct? Answer, no response. Using over the required dosage? Answer, no. Question, okay, because you wouldn't supervise her when she took these medications, correct? No. You wouldn't administer them to her, correct? Correct.
Right, I wouldn't administer them to her.
Nor were you supervising her, correct?
I would see her take her medication. Do I know what the medication label says is what you're supposed to take? I do
Okay.
not recall.
At the preliminary examination, you admitted that you did not supervise her take her medication, correct?
Sure.
And now you're stating that you supervised her while she took her medication. You would agree that this is different statements at different times, correct? You would agree that those are two different statements, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that they both cannot be true, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree that when you testified on the preliminary examination, it was closer in time to when she would have been taking this medication than today is, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that it would be a fair statement that your memory would have been better at the time of this exam than it is today, correct? Correct?
No.
Oh, so your memory gets better at time? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that I remember.
Oh, you said you remember now differently than you remember then. Is that what you're saying?
Perhaps I misunderstood your question then.
It was a very simple question. Do you understand the question? Because you weren't supervising her when she took these medications, correct? Do you understand that question? Yes or no? Do you understand that? Oh, you don't understand that question?
No.
Okay. You wouldn't administer them to her, correct? Do you understand that question?
Yes.
Okay. And you answered, no, you didn't. So you're saying you didn't understand when the question was asked whether or not you supervised her when she took these medications. Is that what you're saying? You didn't understand it?
I understand.
You understand it? Okay. And it was the truth.
It's just so odd to me how he's just bashing her. She just, I mean, it's her daughter's death is the reason they're all there, and he's acting as if she's, I don't know, he's kind of like crossing her like you would like an investigator, a cop or something. But what's even more bizarre to me is how she never gets upset with it. She just, I don't know, she's pretty dadgum calm.
When you said it, correct?
It's the truth now.
Oh, it's the truth now, but you put your hand up and you swore to tell the truth at that particular preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't ask or make a statement stating that, oh, I'm sorry, could you rephrase the question? You didn't say that, did you? Did you? No, you didn't, right? Correct?
Not sure.
Okay.
I know I had to do it a few times with you. I apologize.
Okay. I'm talking about this particular line of question. You never expressed any type of confusion or ambiguity in understanding my question, did you?
At that time, I suppose not.
Okay. And how many different medications was she prescribed?
Just the one.
Okay. You remember indicating that she was prescribed 2 or 3?
Like the vitamins
Or
that I
antidepressants?
asked about?
The antidepressants. You don't remember that? Okay. And she had at that particular time she had suicidal thoughts, correct? Correct?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Okay. You don't remember stating at the preliminary examination that she had suicidal thoughts? Page 60, line 1. Question, suicidal thoughts. Answer, no. Question, you sure? Answer, so, question, be honest, you're under oath. Answer, I remember, I wouldn't lie about it, I'm trying to remember. So yes, she went to the therapy for depression, but you're not allowed to be in the room, so I don't know what was talked about.
So,
The question was about suicidal thoughts, and you said, yes, that was one of the reasons why you took it to the psychiatrist, correct?
Objection, that's a mischaracterization of the transcript.
It's just stated.
That was one of the reasons why you took her to see a psychiatrist, correct?
that's not what you just read.
That's not my question. My question is, that was one of the reasons why you took her to the psychiatrist, correct?
No.
Okay. So, you're telling me that you had no idea that Zion expressed any type of suicidal thoughts or statements. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying to you that I took her because she was depressed.
That's not my question, ma'am. My question is, are you saying under oath today that you had no idea that Zion expressed any type of suicidal thoughts or statements?
No, I can't recall that.
Oh, you can't recall.
No.
But that's your daughter, correct?
Yes.
So surely you would know definitively whether or not, or should know definitively whether or not your daughter expressed suicidal thoughts. That would be a fair statement, correct?
Yes.
But you're stating you can't recall it, correct? Were you too busy to pay attention to what Zion was doing?
No.
Okay. But you just don't recall. You're not denying it. You just, oh, I don't remember whether or not she said these things or expressed these type of feelings, correct?
I know what I took her in to see the doctor for.
That's not my question, ma'am. My question is, you don't remember whether or not she expressed these thoughts or statements.
Objection, asked and answered. Objection calls for speculation. What's to say at this point?
I don't think it calls for speculation. I mean, she can testify whether or not she remembers or not.
Okay.
He's asking whether she knows whether her daughter had certain thoughts. That's
Right.
categorically calling for speculation.
No, I asked her whether or not she expressed them to her, not whether or not she had them.
Okay, well, why don't you ask that question?
Okay. So, Ms. Milton,
No.
I see.
The answer is no.
Let me ask the question first. So you're saying you don't remember whether or not Zion expressed to you that she had suicidal thoughts? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, you don't remember. Okay. And you also indicated that you don't remember if she had any type of seizures, correct?
She didn't.
She didn't have any type of seizures?
No.
Okay. You've heard testimony throughout this case that others observed her having seizures, correct?
No, I haven't heard the testimony.
Oh, okay. Okay. You didn't tell did you ever have an opportunity to speak with any type of medical examiner after Zion was missing? Like a medical forensic pathologist?
No.
Okay. You didn't tell the prosecutor that Zion had a history of taking antidepressants, did you?
No.
Okay. Were you aware that they were contacting a forensic pathologist to try to rule out possible causes of death for Zion?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Were you aware that they contacted a forensic pathologist, a doctor, who was trying to rule out suspected or possible causes of death for Zion? Were you aware of that?
No. I'm sorry. I'm not aware of everything that's, all of the people that are being called. I'm sorry.
No, not everybody's being called, but were you aware were they in communication with a doctor?
With her doctor?
With a doctor?
Yes.
Okay. and they were asking you whether or not she had certain issues or ailments, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you had to help facilitate getting the police and the prosecutor Zion's medical records, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then at no point in time did you indicate that, hey, these records are incomplete. She has antidepressants that she was taking. You never indicated that, did you?
Judge, objection. First of all, I mean, can we approach?
Sure.
Now he's going to get him. The other attorney, the prosecutor's tired of it.
Say that she was taking it. So I'm not sure what is going on here. The records say that she's so I understand. This is just you're asking a question that you know to be false. You know that the records say that she was in your presence.
Now, Zion would get picked up from your house by other males other than her boyfriend, correct? At certain times, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know whether or not these other males were providing any type of substances to her?
No.
You don't know that? Okay. Do you ever disclose to the police that Zion was seeing a psychiatrist?
I'm not sure if I did or didn't. All that being.
And Zion told you about side effects about this antidepressants, correct?
Yes.
You're aware of that is, she said it didn't make her feel good, correct?
Right.
Okay. Did you ever tell her to stop taking them?
Her doctor actually told her to stop if they didn't feel good.
Okay, but you're saying that was said before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I'm asking, after Zion told you, after taking these pills, that she was feeling bad, did you then tell her to stop taking them at that point?
Yes.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if she stopped taking them?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever take her back to the hospital or to the doctor after you told her to stop taking the pills?
No, this is all within around the same time. No.
So you didn't take her back?
No.
Okay. So you didn't. So she never had another evaluation by a medical professional after ceasing to take the pills, correct?
Correct.
And after stopping taking the pills, she had different mood changes, correct?
No.
Okay. So you're stating that after taking the pills, after stopping taking the pills, her attitude and her behavior was normal?
Yes. She hadn't taken them long at all.
Okay. But at some point in time before she took the pills, you felt that you needed to take her to a medical provider in order to have her evaluated, correct?
Yes.
something was going on differently with her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So are you saying that after she stopped taking the pills, did she go back to her pre-behavior, or taking the pill behavior, such as right before you took her, or did she go back just to being normal Zion? I'll clarify it.
Okay,
That was
thank
kind of
you.
confusing. So after you told her to stop taking the pills, how was her behavior?
Regular. She was normal.
Normal, as if she never needed to take the pills in the first place?
Well, to answer that question, I would have to tell you that it wasn't because of behavior that she ended up getting on them. She expressed to me how she was feeling.
Oh, okay.
So she can talk to me and tell me, I don't feel good, Mom. I need, to see a doctor. And so I said, okay, let's go. And that's
So
what
she was expressing certain feelings or thoughts she was having prior to you taking them, correct?
Yes.
And those thoughts and statements that she made to you concerned you enough in order for you to take her to a professional, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Some of these statements were somewhat, in your mind, self-destructive to her, correct?
No. No. Like, I have a daughter now that tells me she's feeling
We're
away.
talking about Zion, I'm sorry.
I know, but I'm just saying that if one of my kids tells me, Mom, I don't feel good, if it's a tummy ache, or, Mom, I have a lot of anxiety or something like that, then I'm like, okay, well, there isn't anything in the house. I can't give you apple juice and it goes away.
Okay.
So I took her to the doctor.
But you would agree that, I know you're not a doctor, but you would agree that anxiety is different than being depressed, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. And she expressed to you depression symptoms or characteristics, correct?
She expressed to me high levels of anxiety.
Or high levels of anxiety?
Yes.
But she went to therapy for depression, not anxiety, correct?
So it's kind of twofold,
You testified at the preliminary examination that she went to see this professional for depression, though, correct?
Well, yes.
Okay. You didn't clarify or state that she went there for anxiety, correct?
I apologize. At that time, I didn't know that I could express as much as I'm expressing right now.
Okay, but if you're asked the question why she went and your answer was for depression, that's something you said, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And before you answered that question, you had an opportunity to think about the answer before you said it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the answer you gave, correct?
Yes.
And it was truthful when you gave it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now you're saying you didn't mean that?
No.
No, you didn't mean it, or no, you're not saying that? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
No, I'm not saying that.
So she went to just to be clear, she went to this medical professional for depression, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she was provided antidepressants because of depression, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not she was smoking marijuana while she was taking these pills?
I don't know.
Thank you. No further questions.
Direct.
There's nothing further, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jury? I've written your question down on the sheet and fold it in half and pass it to the deputy, please. Counsel, if you could please start. How long was Zion taking medication at one time?
I believe that it was Zoloft, and she took it for a couple of weeks.
Did she stop suddenly?
Yes.
Does Zion and the 3-year-old have the same father?
No.
Is there any seizure history?
No.
Do you indicate that you saw Jaylin pick up Zion on the night in question?
No.
Um,
I'm sorry. You said.
All right, so on the night in question, did you observe Mr. Brazier pick up Zion?
No, I was not outside.
And again, did Zion receive meds for anxiety and depression?
The Zoloft was supposed to help with both of those, according to what the doctor told us.
Okay. And you said you did see Mr. Brazier pick up Zion the evening, correct?
Correct. I saw it through the camera, not me being outside.
Any follow-up questions based on that?
Just briefly, Ms. Milton, so back on January 4th, 2022, is it fair to say you had an understanding that the defendant was the one that picked her up based on your discussions with Zion?
Yes.
Okay. And you had testified previously that you had previously had direct interactions with the defendant when he picked her up on other occasions. Is that correct?
Yes.
On those other occasions, did you see what type of car he was driving?
Yes.
What type of car was it?
The white Acura.
And what type of like class of car is that, if you will? Is it a
Sedan.
sedan? Thank you.
Mr. Brown, any follow-up questions?
Okay, and from the video, you weren't able to ascertain exactly what type of car it was, were you?
No.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All right, Dave, you can step down. Counsel, could you please approach, please? 3-3818-01-FC, People State of Michigan versus Jaylin Brazier. Please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ryan Elsey for the people.
Good afternoon, Brian Brown, on behalf of Mr. Jaylin Brazier. Mr. Brazier.
Good afternoon, Jaylin Brazier.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brazier, Mr. Brody, Mr. Elsey. Before we bring out the jury, I wanted to bring, and we talked about this, Mr. Brown, Mr. Elsey, off the record. It was brought to my attention by one of the deputies, Corporal Mike Mitchell, that there appears to have been contact by one of victim's family members with juror number 10. Juror number 10 was, I believe it's juror number 10. Yes, it was late today. And so it delayed, obviously, starting the trial. And apparently one of the family members of the victim approached that juror and told her not to be late during the lunch hour. I want to tell everybody that type of contact, if it happened, is inappropriate. Certainly doesn't help the people's case if you're having contact. And the no contact provision applies not only to the jurors, but to anybody who's associated with either the defendant or the people. So I just want to remind that that's inappropriate contact, and if I hear about it again, let I know who did it. There could be some contempt proceedings. So I just want to make that clear from this point forward. All right. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Elsey or Mr. Brown?
Just want to add that, I just hopefully juror number 10 didn't feel somewhat intimidated or threatened by that particular family member that could possibly impact, later down the line, potential verdict that she may render.
I didn't get that impression, but I didn't have contact with the juror. So I think if that were the case, that would have been communicated to me. I think we just, the jurors following the instructions, and if there's contact with somebody associated with the case, that they're bringing to the staff's attention that she did that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Nice try, but oh my gosh, he's a hall monitor now. Yeah, I know that's part of it, but still, it's like just the way I hope they didn't feel threatened. It's so fake. It's so obvious. Okay.
All right. All right, Mr.
Come on out, take your seats.
Kurt, if there's an objection, please stop talking until it's resolved. Please keep your voice up, and if you would, please state your name and spell it.
Vertez Gonzalez. Spell it VERTEZ GONZALES. My bad, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay.
For sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Elson.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gonzalez, I want to start by just asking you a couple of background questions. How old are you right now?
I'm 19.
Do you know somebody by the name of Zion Foster?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my bad.
Yeah, if you can just make sure instead of moons or nods, just yes or no. What was your relationship with Zion Foster?
She was my girlfriend.
How long had she been your girlfriend?
Like 7 months.
And did you know her before you started dating, or?
Probably like a couple weeks or something. Probably a month. I don't know exactly.
Okay. How did the two of you meet?
I think on social media, I believe, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And during the course of your relationship with Zion, did you become aware of somebody by the name of Jaylin Brazier?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did you ever have any sort of direct contact with Mr. Brazier, like in person?
No.
Did you ever see him visually in any other sort of way?
Through like pictures that she probably had took. That's really it. But nothing like nothing like me having a phone and being on the phone. No, nothing like that. So no.
Okay. Do you remember having any type of FaceTime calls where you would have seen him?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay, fair enough. I want to ask you about the night of January 4th of 2022. Do you remember that night?
Yes.
And that night, were you with Zion?
No.
And is there any particular reason why you weren't with Zion on that specific night?
No. No particular reason.
Do you remember? Have you ever had COVID?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Had COVID like a couple weeks before that. She had COVID too.
Okay, and so were you guys keeping your distance at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have contact with Zion on that particular night?
Yes.
And was that contact in the form of text messages?
Yes.
And was the contact also in the form of talking to her on the phone?
Yes.
Did you also have any video calls with her that night?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your contact with her, did you form any understanding or impression of who she was with that night?
Yes.
And what did you understand to be the situation in terms of who she was with that night?
She told me she was gonna hang with her cousin, her favorite cousin.
Okay.
So
And did you know the name of that favorite cousin?
yes.
What was that favorite cousin's name?
Jaylin.
Okay. And I want to ask about some text messages. I'm holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 12. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll hand you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 12. Have you reviewed that exhibit previously?
Yes.
And does that appear to be a report that contains messages that you either sent or received from Zion Foster on January 4th and January 5th of 2022?
Yes. Hold on, let me see. You talking about these right here? You talking about from him, or you saying from her?
From her, with Zion.
This you asking me about that? I'm trying to make sure.
Yeah, let me make sure I ask a clearer question. So why don't you take a look at that document for
The whole thing, or just this one?
Just skim it and let me know once you've had an opportunity to familiarize yourself with it.
These look like the messages between me and him. I don't.
You know, that's my bad. I think I handed you the wrong one.
Okay.
Let me, we'll get back to that in a minute. All right, I'm holding what has been marked actually is Proposed Exhibit 9. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And sorry about the confusion there, Mr. Gonzalez. Can you take a look at Proposed Exhibit 9? Does that appear to contain messages between you and Zion?
Yes.
And does that appear to contain messages that you, the two of you, sent each other on January 4th and January 5th of 2022?
Yep. Before and then. Yep. Yes.
And did you have you had a cell phone at around that time?
You said I have a cell phone?
Yeah, cell phone.
Oh yes.
And at some point during the investigation, did you give the police your cell phone so that they could forensically analyze it?
Yes.
And that document that you're holding right now that's marked as Proposed Exhibit 9, is it your understanding that comes from the essentially like the download of your phone that the police did?
Yes.
And does that appear to fairly and accurately depict the communications that you had with Zion back on January 4th
Yes.
and January 5th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With that, I move to admit Proposed Exhibit 9.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
I just want to walk through a couple of these messages, Mr. Gonzalez. Your Honor, is it all right if I sit down while I'm scrolling through this? Thank you. And for the record, publishing Exhibit 9. Okay, and if we just start with the first row of messages, Mr. Gonzalez, you see where it says there's a column that says direction up at the very top,
Yes.
and in row number 1, what does the direction say?
Outgoing. Yeah.
Okay. And do you see where it says there's another column that says timestamp?
Timestamp. Oh yeah, I see it.
What's the date and time reflected for that first message?
1/4/22, and it's at 9:30.
Okay, and you see the column right next to it where it says the party. The section where it says from, and there's a contact that says Bert. Is that you?
Yes.
And then it says to, and there's a number, and the contact is wife with a heart emoji. Who is that contact?
That's Zion.
That was how you had Zion in your phone? Okay. And was that her number at the time, the 313-913-5931?
Yes.
Okay. And the body of this message, under the column description, what does it say?
Under the first one, right?
Yeah, under the first one.
I don't.
You see where it says almost up at the top?
Almost off. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to, I guess, move along and ask about a couple of specific times, and I want to scroll down to row 10. Okay. On page 2, do you see that message? Okay. What?
Yes, my bad.
What time was that message sent?
10:22
And was that a message from Zion or to Zion?
from her. I guess incoming. Yeah.
And what did that message say?
I got the worst headache in the world.
Okay. And then, did you have an understanding whether or not she was working that night?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks like there's some communications about her getting off work, is that right?
Yes.
I want to continue to scroll down here.
And for those of you in the jury box, particularly jurors 9 to 10, I realize you almost have to be a bit of a giraffe to see the monitor. If you're having difficulty, you can move up closer or sit over there. You don't have to ask permission, you just go and do it. We recognize it's not an ideal spot for it, but that's where it is.
At some point, did you have a phone conversation with Zion that night?
Yes.
When you were on the phone with her, do you remember approximately what time it was?
Between probably I can give you around probably 11 or 12, 10, 11 or 12 around. I don't know exactly what time now,
But sometime late,
Yeah,
late that
late.
night on the 4th.
yes.
And during that conversation, did you hear anyone else's voice in the background?
I believe so. I don't really remember that well.
You don't remember at this point?
Yeah, at this point, I really don't remember.
Okay.
Oh, you talking about? I heard him when she was getting in the car with him earlier, but I didn't hear him when she was at the actual house.
Okay, let's talk about the first time you were on the phone with Zion that night, okay, when you said she was getting into a car at that point. So is it fair to say you had multiple conversations with her over the phone that night?
Yes.
Okay. And during the first conversation you had with Zion, did you hear, was this a voice call or a video call?
It was a voice call, regular call.
A regular call, okay. And did you hear any voices in the background?
Yes.
The voice, did you hear one or more voices in the background other than Zion?
Just one.
And did you have any familiarity with that voice from previously hearing it?
Yes.
And based on your familiarity with that voice, did you have any impression of whose voice that was?
Yes.
And whose would that have been?
Her cousin, Jaylin.
Okay. And so had you heard his voice before over the phone then?
I heard her talking to him in the background when we was on the phone before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said there was another point where you were on the phone with her, but you couldn't hear anything at that point. Is that right? Anything else in the background?
Like, are you saying like hear somebody else? That's what you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah, I didn't really hear nobody else at that point when she got to the house.
Okay. And I want to ask, do you know whether Zion had location sharing enabled on her phone?
Yes. Yes.
And did you have the ability to view the location of Zion's phone using your own phone?
Yes.
And at some point that night on January 4th, did you look at the location of Zion's phone?
Yes.
And did you take a screenshot of that?
Yes.
And I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 10. May I approach her?
Yes.
Is proposed exhibit 10, is that a copy of the screenshot that you took of the location of Zion's phone?
Yes.
And is that fair and accurately depict what you physically saw when you went into the location sharing app on your phone that night?
Yes.
And is that time stamped January 4th at 11:24 p.m.?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit exhibit 10.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
And may I publish?
Yes.
Okay, and so what is, are you familiar with these, I guess, these streets that are depicted here on Exhibit 10?
Like, do I know where it's at? Are you saying, like, have I seen her there before? Basically,
Yeah,
her
have you ever been over to that area directly?
I mean, not when she was there, but like, yeah, I've been over there before, yeah.
Okay, and what are these cross streets, if you can just...
Greenfield, St. Martin's Ave, and Vassar, I think that's how you say it.
Okay, and is that on the west side of Detroit?
Yes.
And had you known Zion to be over in that location before?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know of anybody who lives near that location?
Yes.
And who's that?
Her cousin. Okay.
And let me ask, when you took that screenshot on January 4th at 11:24 p.m., what prompted you to do that?
Just trying to make sure she, you know, checking her location.
Okay. Did you, did you have any concerns about her hanging out with her cousin?
Sort of, oh my bad, sort of, kind of, you feel me, but not really, because, you know, her friend told me some stuff about him, and I'm just like, oh,
Objection
no.
to whatever her friend or...
I mean, ask the question.
Yeah, without getting into anything that
Okay.
anybody else said, but were you, let me just ask it this way, were you thrilled that she's hanging out with her cousin without you that night?
Come on. No, not really.
Was there maybe a bit of jealousy, a little bit?
No.
No, but you still weren't happy that she was hanging out with her cousin that night?
I mean, I ain't gonna say I wasn't happy, I just was like, just make sure she was good, you feel me? That's really what I was.
Okay. So at this point, at 11:24, were you worried at all?
Nah, I don't think so at this time. I don't think so at this time, no.
Okay. All right, I want to go back to Exhibit 9. And if we scroll down to the message that's numbered 140, and I think that's going to be on page 16. Oh, I'm sorry. I got the wrong message. Let's start with message 53 on page 6. Let me know when you're at that page.
I'm here.
Okay. And if you look at number 53, is that an outgoing message or incoming message?
Outgoing.
Okay, and you would have sent that to Zion?
Yes.
And what time was that message sent based on the report?
10:52.
And what did you write to Zion at that time?
I said I don't want to be OTP. That basically means I don't want to be on the phone.
On the phone? Okay. And what's the very next message down? What did you say following up with that?
When you with your cousin. With your cousin.
Okay. And that next message was sent just a few seconds later. Is that right?
Yes.
So what did you mean when you said I don't want to be on the phone when you're with your cousin?
So I don't want to be on the phone when you like out basically. Yeah.
Okay. And which cousin were you referring to when you wrote that?
Jaylin.
Okay. And going down to number 55 on the very next page at the top, is this another outgoing message?
Yes.
And what time was this sent?
At 10:53.
Okay. And what did you write to Zion at that time?
Not trying to have stuff weird, basically. Shit weird.
Okay. What did you mean by that at that time?
I really don't remember. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay. And then
Probably the same. Referring to the same thing I was just talking about.
number 56, is that also an outgoing message?
Yes.
And what time was that sent?
10:53.
And what did you write at that time?
I want you to have your times. I want your times. I don't know what I said. I want you have your times. You confirmed it was him. I want you to basically chill with him. Like,
Okay.
I confirmed that it was him when I heard his voice on the phone.
And what was the very next message that you wrote to her?
I said I heard both voices, so it's cool.
Okay. And whose voice again are you referring to when you say
Jaylin.
that? I want to scroll down to message 63. Is that an incoming or outgoing message?
Incoming.
And what time did Zion send that message to you?
11:16.
And what did she write to you at that time?
Here.
Okay. What did you understand that to mean?
She was at her location.
Okay. I want to scroll down to number 92 on page 11.
Yes.
Was that an outgoing message or an incoming message?
Outgoing.
And what time did you send that message?
At 12:03.
And that would be just after midnight on January 5th?
Yes.
And what did you write to Zion at that time?
What time are you going home? What time are you going home? Yes.
And what did she respond, if you can look at the very next two
She
messages?
said we finna smoke again.
And then what was her follow-up to that in line 94?
I leave before 1.
Okay. I want to take you down to 97 on page 11. Was this an incoming message or outgoing message?
Incoming.
And what time was this message sent to you?
At my bad, 12:09. My bad.
And what did Zion send to you at that point?
Like a FaceTime call, picture, screenshot.
A screenshot? Okay. And I'm holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 11. May I approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Is Proposed Exhibit 11, is that a copy of the screenshot that you received from Zion at 12:09 a.m.?
Yes.
And does that fairly and accurately depict what she texted you at that point?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that that's a screenshot from her phone? Is that correct, that she sent you? Do you know why she sent that?
She was sending it to me to show me like the FaceTime wasn't working, basically.
Okay, you were having problems connecting with her?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to admit Proposed Exhibit 11.
No objection.
Okay, it's admitted.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay, and so she sends this at 12:09. Are you familiar with iPhones and using FaceTime on an iPhone?
Yes.
And do you know whether Zion had an iPhone at the time?
Yes. She did.
And when someone is in that sort of initial phase of a FaceTime, are you familiar with whether the image that appears on their phone is like inverted or not, or is it an actual, would it be like a straight-on image?
It'd probably be inverted.
Okay, so kind of like a mirror image, so to speak. Okay. And this is, you got this at 12:09 a.m., is that correct?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay, I want to take you down to message 108, that's on page 13. And was that a incoming message or an outgoing message?
Incoming.
And what time was that message sent?
At 12:59.
12:59 a.m.? Okay. And what did Zion write to you at that time?
On my way home, OMW. On my way home.
Okay, so the OMW stands for on my way. That message, did you ever hear from Zion Foster again?
No. No, on the phone, no.
She never texted you? Did you try to reach out to her after that message?
Yes.
At what point did you start to become worried?
Probably like right after, probably like.
Okay. Let's go. Just want to ask about some of these. If you go down to message 112 at on page 13. Again, was that an outgoing or incoming message?
Outgoing.
And what time did you send that message to Zion?
1:21.
Is it 1:13? Is it 1:28?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, my bad. 1:20. Oh no, you said which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting my numbers confused. Yeah, 1:12. You're right. 1:20. So it was 1:21. And what did you write to her at that time?
I said I'm pissed because you let your phone die.
And what was it that made you think her phone was dead at that point?
So when I tried to call it, it didn't ring.
Did it just go straight to voicemail?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you go down to 114 and 115, what did you write at that point?
I said niggas trying to be cool. Your phone probably just dead.
And what did you mean by that, I guess, when you said that to her?
I'm trying to be calm. Her phone probably just died.
Okay. And then you go down to 116, also at 135. What did you write to her at that point?
You talking about number 116?
Yeah, number
So
116.
just bring out the insecure side of me, not gonna lie.
Okay. And what did you, I guess what did you mean when you wrote that?
I didn't know what was going on. I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on at this point. I ain't gonna lie. I'm trying to make sure I ain't tweaking, you know, like overruling, basically.
Okay. I'm going to go down to number 126 on page 15. What time was that message sent?
You said 126?
Yeah, 126.
151.
And what did you follow that up with if you look at the next couple of messages?
I said, I really hope I'm tripping, bruh.
What was going through your mind at that point?
I don't know, like, I'm thinking the worst. Like, whatever situation, I'm just thinking the worst, basically.
Okay, and if we go down to 130 on page 15, what time was that message sent?
You said 130?
Yeah.
And 155?
And what did you write at that point?
So I really hope you're not cheating on me, bro.
And was that I guess a concern you had that was going through your head?
I don't know. I'm thinking of everything. I ain't gonna lie. So yeah, basically.
Okay.
Thinking that.
And down to 135 and 136. What time were these messages sent?
At 251.
And what's the content of those messages
I
at
said,
that
yeah,
point?
you cheating this up 100.
So you have concerns that maybe she's with somebody else?
Yeah.
Anybody in particular?
No.
Okay. 142 and 143. What time were these messages sent?
You said 142 is at 306.
And what did you write to her at that point?
I said, really hope you safe. And I said, I love you forever.
And if you go down to 145, what time was that sent?
8:53. I mean, in the morning at 8:53.
Okay, so at some point did you go to bed that night? Did you go to sleep?
Yeah.
Okay. And you got up, you hadn't heard anything from Zion by that point?
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
Okay. And then when you texted her at 8:53, what did you write?
8:50. I said, is you alive?
And then what's the next message that you wrote?
I said, this is the worst thing ever.
When did you write that?
At 9:04.
Now, I want to ask, when you were dating Zion, how much time would you say you guys spent together?
Probably like 3 times a week because I had school. 3-4 times a week.
Okay. So you saw her pretty regularly, you'd say?
Mm-hmm.
Were you aware of her having any type of significant health issues?
Not nothing real crazy, but not nothing really crazy, no.
Okay. Did you ever like personally see her have something that looked like a health issue?
Yeah, I seen her she passed out before and just came back up. Like, I thought it was like a seizure, basically.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what it was, but.
And when this happened, do you remember how many times you saw something like that happen?
About one time. That's about it. Probably about once.
Okay. And when that happened, and you say, can you describe what exactly you saw?
She probably just and then got back up, basically.
And you're making a motion with your head, so
Yeah.
did her head just kind of go back?
Kind of, yeah, basically, yeah. Yes.
And how long did this last?
Probably two, about a second or two. I don't know, not that long.
Okay. Did you have like concerns enough to, call an ambulance or anything like that?
No.
And you said you thought it was a seizure. What made you think it was a seizure?
I mean, because I don't know what it was. I just assumed that's what it was. Just off of seeing my dukes have them and stuff like that. Just,
Okay.
so
So
she never, yeah.
have you, I guess, seen, do you have any family members who have seizures?
Yes.
And have you ever seen any of those seizures take place firsthand? A family member have a seizure, did that look to you like what you saw Zion experience?
No.
Okay. Describe the difference.
Like, be foaming out her mouth. My mom be foaming out her mouth and stuff. That's basically, and she'd probably fall down. And it'd be longer than that. She'd be shaking and stuff. So.
And that's your mom having a seizure?
Yes.
Okay, so when your mom has a seizure, you said you saw her foam out of the mouth and shake, and it would be longer, correct?
Yes.
When you saw Zion, you say pass out quickly this one time, you said it just lasts a couple of seconds, is that correct?
Yes.
Was there any foaming in
No.
her mouth?
No.
Was there any type of shaking or body twitching?
No.
Did anything, was anything else going on when this happened from what you remember? Was there like an argument or
No.
anything like that?
No.
Was there any substance use that was going on, marijuana, anything like that?
No.
Okay. After you lost contact with Zion, did you take some, and can you sort of walk us through what's like the first thing that you did to try to locate Zion?
I called her. At first, obviously, I looked at the location. And then I called her brother, see if she was at the house. Because at this point, I was like, she probably just back at the house. And after that, I told him to go go to her phone and look up her cousin's phone number. And
Okay,
I
and at
called
some
her.
point, were you able to get Jaylin's number?
Yes.
Okay, and did you reach out to him?
Yes.
And did you end up having some communications back and forth with him?
Yes.
And were those communications over the phone?
The first time we talked on the phone, but then we started texting.
Okay. Do you remember what was said when you talked with him on the phone?
Not exactly, but,
Okay.
you know.
Did you ask him whether he had seen Zion?
Yes. I mean, I asked him that when we first was on the phone, but I don't know if I said that in the messages. I don't really remember.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. When you spoke with him on the phone,
Okay, yeah. Yes.
did you ask him whether he had seen Zion?
Yes.
And do you remember what he answered?
Yeah. He said, like, no. She's like, he confused. Like, what you talking about? He said,
Okay. Did you ask him whether he knew where she was?
yes. I mean, I believe, so I don't really remember.
Okay.
But I know he was, like, confused. So I wasn't like,
Objection to his interpretation of my client's state of mind. That's speculation.
But you said you also had some written communications with him over text message,
yes.
and I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 12. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And this is the document that I mistakenly gave you earlier. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
And does that appear to be a report of your communications with Jaylin Brazier after Zion Foster's disappearance?
Yes.
And would you say that report that's marked as Exhibit 12 fairly and accurately captures the communications that you had via text with Jaylin Brazier?
Yes.
I move to admit proposed Exhibit 12.
Any objection?
The only objection is whether or not this witness can actually authenticate who in fact he was speaking to, and whether or not he had the right number. I believe he indicated he never really spoke to Mr. Brazier on the phone, so how would he know if he was texting this person and these text messages are who they purport to be?
I'll ask a clarifying question. What is the phone number that you were communicating with?
313-575-3450.
And I just want to briefly put up on the screen what's been admitted as Exhibit 2. Do you see that number up on the screen right now? Is that, is that the same number you were communicating with?
Yes, 345. Yeah.
Okay. And to be clear, you didn't know Jaylin Brazier like on a personal one-on-one level, is that correct?
No, I didn't know.
But you testified you were familiar with the sound of his voice, correct?
Yes.
And are you familiar with his appearance?
I mean, I seen like pictures of him through her.
Okay. And based on seeing pictures of him, did you develop a familiarity with his appearance?
Yes.
And based on your familiarity with his appearance, do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And just for the record, can you point to him and describe what he's wearing?
He right there with blue with a green towel.
Okay. If the record can reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
So reflected.
And when you had those communications that you were that are in your hand marked as proposed Exhibit 12, you said that those came after a phone conversation. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who was that phone conversation with?
With Jaylin.
With the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And then you followed that phone conversation up with written communications about the same subject. Is that correct?
Yes.
Namely, the location of Zion?
Yes.
And did you have an understanding that you were speaking with anyone other than the defendant?
I mean, you asking, do I for sure know it's him, basically, you ask?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, yeah.
who was your understanding you were speaking with or
Him.
writing back and forth with? The defendant?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I further renew my request to admit Exhibit 12.
Court discretion.
All right, it's admitted. I think this is good proper foundation. Right?
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay, I want to start at the top. Okay. So these messages in green, who are the green messages attributed to?
Me.
You? Okay, so those are messages you're sending to him.
Yes.
And then who are the blue messages attributed to?
Him.
The defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And this very top message that you sent to him, what's the date and time of that message?
One on the 5th, January 5th at 12:04.
Okay. And what is it that you sent him? Obviously, there's a lot of, it looks like a web address, but what was it you were trying to send him at that point?
The location.
The location that
Of her. Yeah.
you had of Zion's phone?
Yes.
And that would be the 11:24 p.m. location?
Shoot, I guess so. I mean, you don't show it, so. Yeah.
Well, was that location based on this screenshot that's
Oh, yes.
that admitted as Exhibit 10?
Yes.
Okay. And what was his response to receiving that location?
He said, "Hey, that's not my address, Greenfield. That's not my address, Greenfield, but it's basically around me."
Okay. And then I want to scroll down to page 2. The top message that he sent. What is it that he wrote to you?
You said, "Did her mom see her leave?"
And if you scroll down further down to page 3, what's the message that he wrote that's reflected on page 3?
That address, like down the street from me, bro. Sound like she has something going on, or something.
Okay. And what day is that message sent?
On the 5th, January 1/5/22.
Okay. And then page 4, what's the message that he sent at the top of page 4?
You have her her mama number basically probably meant to say.
Okay, and what did you respond to that?
I said, yeah, she about to call you.
And what was his response after?
Text her. Oh my bad. Text her and ask what time she left.
This is still January 5th at 12:09 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go down to the top of page 6. What's the message that he sent you that way?
Yeah, she called me, bro. She said she didn't see what car she left in. Apparently, Zion stayed saying she be with me. That's cap.
Okay. And cap AF, what's that mean?
Cap is foot.
Okay. And what was your response to that? If you look at the next message.
I said, L, it's whatever.
Okay, and then go down to the top of page 7. What's the message that he sent at that point?
When I was on the phone with her mom, she said Zion said she was leaving, but when she asked where she was, she turned her phone off.
And then how about at the bottom of page 7? What's the message that he sent there?
He said, hey, do y'all use air tags? Oh, my bad, air tags, because that will give a much better location.
And then how about at the bottom of page 8? What message did he send there?
Any updates?
And this is again at what time?
131?
So he's asking you for updates,
Yes.
and your response.
And I said no.
And what did you send him after saying?
I said, hey, bro, she over there, and she just want to be left alone. Tell her to let me know, so I ain't got to be worried.
Okay. And let's go to page 10 at the top. What did he send at that point?
He said, bro, do you want a video chat? I'll walk through this whole motherfucking house and show you my cameras. I'm dead tired of motherfuckers bothering me. I got 2 kids and one on the way. Ain't got time being a part of this. This girl motherfucking lies. Okay.
So he doesn't want to be part of Zion's lies, he says at this point.
Yeah, basically.
And this was sent when?
At 11:03.
And did you ever go to his house?
No.
Okay, I want to go to page. I want to go to page 15. You can go to the top of page 15. What did he send you at that point?
He sent me a video of him showing me his cameras.
Okay. And did you look at that video?
Yes.
And I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 13. It's a disc. Did we review this disc together before you testified?
Yes.
And does this disc contain that video that the defendant sent you?
Yes.
And is that in substantially the same condition it was when you initially received the video back on January 5th, 2022?
Yes.
I'd move to admit proposed 13.
Any objection?
No, just, I guess, a foundation of exactly how the prosecutor got this, or did he hand it over to the police or such. Other than that, no.
Are you the next one?
I mean, Judge, I think the foundation has been laid. When the forensic extraction person testifies, we can clean anything up. If there are questions about what
Certainly, he testified it's from his phone. He received it from Mr. Brazier, so that'll be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not probably telling you shit, but you know, fuck that, really. I just got your message on. And how I got work on the record when there's actually somebody at the door and how I wasn't out, so yeah. At 12 a.m., 12:36, and I was recording before I walked past, so it does it off and on. But before, they changed the recorders before. Maybe it's all of them.
And what was your understanding of the purpose of receiving this video from him?
He was trying to just prove him.
I think the judge is speculation. Please not let me speculate what my client is trying to do.
Well, I think he's trying to, the question was, what was Mr. Gonzalez's understanding?
Right, and he's answering my client was attempting to do something. So I think he's trying to speculate what my client was trying to do, even though that wasn't a question.
Oh, my bad. Okay. But what I feel like basically, like that he was trying to say.
When you got this, were you thinking, this is somebody showing me that Zion was at his house, or
Yes.
something else?
Yes, that's what I felt. Like
That she was there or wasn't there?
that she wasn't there. I felt that as if that he was trying to show me that she wasn't there.
Okay. And he was trying to be transparent about that, right? By
Yes.
showing you the videos?
Yes.
And the message immediately after that, what did he write at that point?
He said my camera's recorded when there's somebody at the door or the side of my house, by the way, so it shows when I left and got back.
And how long after the video being sent over was that message sent over?
He sent that at the same time.
Okay.
Oh no, that's when I read it. My bad. Oh my bad.
You
All
see
right,
the
same time basically. Yes.
So both at 11:27 p.m.
Yes.
And then what was the next message that he sent you?
It would be better to video record VC because that's when that's when it would be better quality video record basically.
Yeah, I want to scroll down to page 21. So, what's the message that he sent at the top of page 21?
Look at the direction on the picture she sent you. She sent you and look at mine.
Okay, and this discussion that you're having right now, are you referring to Exhibit 11, the screenshot that Zion had sent you that night?
Yes.
Okay, and why were you messaging the defendant about this specific screenshot?
Cause you say this right. Cause he sent me this picture, or who I think it was him sent me this picture of his living room. He was trying to say that the picture was like flipped over or something.
Flipped?
Yeah.
Okay. And you responded to that. If you look at the middle of page 21, what did you respond?
I said iPhone flips it, bro.
Okay, and what did he respond after you wrote that?
Oh well, you still see the big ass crack and my whole camera feed. That girl was never here.
And what time did he send that?
11:44.
Okay, I want to go down toward the middle of page 23. What message did he send at that point?
I'm not going to keep explaining the same things to y'all. I said it and showed everyone what they asked. I'm done. I'm going to bed.
And what did he write after that?
Shit ain't got shit to do with me.
And this is all still on the same day, January 5th, correct?
Yes.
And then I want to go down to the top of page 24. What did you write to him at that point?
I said, hey, can you send me the video from you going to pick up your girl that night?
And what's the date of this message?
1/11, January 11th.
So this is sometime after the last messages?
Yes.
Did you ever receive a response from him?
No.
Okay. Have you had any communication with him since then?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Not through text message.
And when you were initially looking for the defendant's contact information, you mentioned getting it from a third party, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you also, do you know whether Zion had an Instagram account?
Yes.
And did you have like a way to access that account?
Yes.
And did you do anything, I guess, inside of Zion's account to try to locate her?
Like log in? What do you mean? Like
Yeah.
y'all logged in to see if she had some active messages going through other people?
Okay, and so if there were, I guess, messages in her account from January 5th, would those be messages attributed to you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir. What's how you doing?
Doing good, thank you.
Now, going back to the date of January 4th, 2022, it was your understanding that while Zion was at work, she had, what she indicated to you, the worst headache ever, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when she told you that, it was your understanding that this was more than just a normal headache, but an extreme headache, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And while she was at work, you said that you were going to ping her location, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she disliked that. Matter of fact, she disliked the text when you said you were going to ping her at 10:25, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then she told you that she was going to get in trouble if you pinged her at work, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You looking at this paper, right? Like you got the paper?
I want you to go and remember, it's on the paper, yes.
For sure. I'm just trying to make sure.
And if you scroll down to message number 30 on page 4. Could you read that?
I said, have I pinged you?
And could you read message 31?
No, I'm telling you, don't.
Okay, and that was from her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could you scroll to message 36? And could you read that message?
I literally said, it's no issue, just don't ping me.
Okay, who's that from?
Her.
And that's to you?
Yes.
Okay. So it'd be fair to say that you guys were going back and forth about her wanting you not to ping her at work, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you ping somebody, it's a way of getting their location, correct?
It's a way of, like, not getting their location, but, like, basically, like, pinging their phone. Basically, I ping your phone, you feel me? It's going to alarm it, basically. So I'm not really getting your location.
And she didn't want that to happen, correct?
Basically.
Okay, and she let you know very clear that, in fact, that she did not want that to happen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were somewhat insecure about your relationship with Zion, correct?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Okay, because she cheated on you before, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And at times when you would call her at other times when she wouldn't answer the phone, you had some thoughts that she might be cheating on you, correct?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Okay. So you would frequently call her or text message her to see where she was at, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Zion also had a history of somewhat running away from home, correct?
Yes.
Okay, she did it on more than one occasion, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And at one occasion, she stayed away from her home for like a couple of months, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see her frequently during this time she was away from home?
I don't really remember.
Okay. But she wasn't staying with you, correct?
No.
Okay. And during this time that she was away from home, you had some concerns that she might be cheating on you with somebody else, correct?
No.
You didn't?
No.
But you weren't with her though, right?
Yeah, I won't with her though.
Okay. Now, was this before or after she cheated on you?
It's before.
Okay. Now, you knew of Zion's history of seizures, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew, in fact, that she had seizures previously, correct?
Objection,
Yeah.
foundation.
I'm just asking if you knew.
I mean-
Did you know previously she had seizures?
I probably heard of it, but I never seen anything.
Okay. Zion told you that she had a history of seizures, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew when you saw her have a seizure that there were seizures that predated that particular experience, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because she told you, correct?
Yes.
And she also told you that she was taking medication for those seizures, correct?
Told me she was taking medication, but I don't know if it was for the seizure. It was medication.
So you're saying that you didn't know that Zion did not tell you that she was taking medications for seizures?
Not that I remember right now off the dome.
You remember testifying at a preliminary examination?
Yes.
And you remember being asked, page 139, line 18. And you remember being asked, did you know that, what was your understanding, the reason why Zion was on prescription medication? And you indicated because she had seizures and stuff like that sometimes. Remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. So you knew that she was taking medication for seizures, correct?
I knew she was taking medication, but I
But
don't know.
you testified at the preliminary examination that your understanding,
I'm pretty sure it was for that, yeah.
okay, but you testified to that, correct?
Yes.
Under oath, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you said it was the truth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you actually witnessed a particular episode, correct?
Yes.
And she passed out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you stated that you weren't all that concerned about it, correct?
Yes.
And the reason you weren't concerned is because she had told you she had a history of seizures. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And she also told you that when she didn't take her medication, she would have more seizures, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that she was on medication for depression? Did you?
No.
Okay. But you knew that Zion was battling depression, correct?
I really know.
Okay. You know that she told you she threatened to kill herself before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she would constantly be in a dark place, correct?
Not constantly, but
From time to time.
yeah.
Okay.
Like,
And when you met her, she was in this dark place, correct?
to a certain extent.
Did you, when she threatened to kill herself, did you contact the police?
No.
Did you contact her mother?
I don't remember.
Have you seen Zion take any kind of medication?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Had you seen her take any pills?
No.
Okay. But you knew she smoked marijuana, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know where she got her marijuana from?
Not particularly from one of her friends.
One of her friends?
Yes. I didn't know him, but
You didn't? It was a guy?
yes.
Okay. Did you know if this particular guy put anything in the marijuana they gave to Zion?
He did.
How do you know this?
Cause I done smoked it with her before.
Oh, you smoked it with her before?
Yes.
Okay. Were you with her every time she got marijuana from this guy?
Most of the time.
Most of the time?
Yes.
Who would facilitate it? You or her?
Sometimes I come up with her. You know, sometimes she just go handle it.
I'm sorry. repeat that?
Sometimes I might go up there with her, you feel me? You talking about to go get it from him?
Yes.
Sometimes I might go get it, sometimes, you feel me, we do it together, you feel me? It just depends.
Okay. And every time she had marijuana, would she tell you who she got it from? Or did you just assume she got it from him?
I mean, I usually ask, like, you feel me, who you about to, you know, so yes.
Okay, if she was smoking by herself or away from you, then you would just ask where you get it from?
Yes.
How would you know that she was smoking if she's at home?
If I be on the phone, FaceTime?
Okay. And then she would tell you it was this particular person?
Yes.
Okay. Did you question her before whether or not she was on other drugs such as LSD or mushrooms?
Yes.
And there was a reason why you asked her that, correct?
No.
Or you just asked her just because?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you spoke to Zion on this day that she was at work with the headache, you indicated that she sounded different, correct? She sounded real tired, didn't she?
She didn't sound tired. You asking, like, basically asking when did she start sounding tired? She didn't sound tired till later on in the day.
Oh, but later on when you spoke to her, after she said she was going to smoke, or after you knew she had smoked,
Yeah.
she said she sounded very tired,
Yeah,
correct?
after the time she said in the messages, I'm about to smoke again, that's when after that she started sounding a little tired.
Tired?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is differently than she normally sounds, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When she said she had the worst headache in the world, were you concerned?
No.
You weren't? No. Okay. But even though you thought in your mind that meant that headache was more severe than a headache that she normally would have, correct?
Not really. I got a bad headache. Like right now, I got a bad headache. Feel me? But not nothing like crazy. Cause she probably should have
Okay.
called the police. I mean, the ambulance.
Okay. But just having a bad headache is one thing. But if somebody says they have the worst headache ever, wouldn't that preface that this is worse than any other headache?
Yes.
Okay. And you understood that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't think to follow up with a message, are you okay? Do you want me to call somebody?
No.
I'm sorry, did you say yes or no?
I said no.
Okay. Now, you indicated, well, you started to indicate where you allegedly got Jaylin's number from. You stated that you got it from her brother?
Yes.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that you spoke to the police
Yes.
about this incident, and they wrote out a statement of what you told the police, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and at that end of that statement, you signed that statement, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and when you signed that statement, it was your acknowledgement to the police that all the contents in that particular statement were as true and accurate to the best of your memory, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that you told the police on January 20th, 2022, that you got Jaylin's number from Zion's friend Alima?
Believe so. I don't really remember.
Okay. If we're looking at your statement, refresh your memory.
About to pull it up or something? Or?
We're looking at your statement, refresh your memory. Yes or no?
Oh yes.
You got me approach?
Sure.
Look over that and acknowledge what you've done.
Okay.
Are you finished?
Mm.
You want me to approach?
Sure.
Oh, you know, I'm supposed to read this too? My bad, I didn't read it back. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Now, Mr. Gonzalez, isn't it true that you told the police that, in fact, you received this alleged number from Alima?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were asked the same question at the preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
And at no point in time, and you were presented this very same statement at the preliminary examination, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. At no point in time did you ever contact the police to supplement this report to indicate that, hey, this information is incorrect,
No.
correct?
No.
Because this, on January 20th, was closer to the time of this incident than today is, correct?
Correct.
And January 20th of 2022 is closer in time than the time you had the preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it'd be fair that your memory would have been better at the time of taking this statement than it is today, correct?
Yes.
And also your memory would have been better at the time of taking the statement than it was at the preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is it or is it not true that, who did you get the statement from? Who did you get the number from?
I mean, I thought I got it from my brother, but I guess Alima.
Okay. So it'd be fair to say that you were not familiar with this particular telephone number, correct?
No.
You've never dialed the number before, right?
No.
You've never spoken to Jaylin prior to the time that you alleged that or assumed that you spoke to him, correct?
No. I never spoke to him.
And you stated that you recognized a voice from the background. How many different times have you thought you heard his voice in the background while speaking to Zion?
Probably about 5, 6, 7 times.
5 or 6, 7 times? Okay. And none of these 5 or 6 or 7 times did this person you assume be Jaylin get on the phone and say hi or speak to you, exchange words,
I don't
right?
believe so, no.
Okay. And you were speaking with Zion while you heard this voice in the background?
No, I probably was just sitting on the phone and she was talking to him, basically. Yeah.
Probably, I mean, are you guessing? I don't want you to guess. I want you to go in your
Yes.
memory.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that,
I was just sitting on the phone and she was talking, having a conversation with him.
and how long did this conversation last for?
I don't know how many times, I don't know how long they all lasted for, you feel me? But however long they was talking, I don't know.
Okay. And could you gauge how far away from the phone this particular individual might have been, if you had to guess?
Probably about, this is between y'all right now, probably like, from the
Okay.
phone, you feel me? Like right there, probably not that far.
Was it other things that you heard in the background, such as maybe the TV, radio?
No.
Now, from your understanding, how long did Zion have had seizures?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Okay, but you just knew it was a history of it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that she was taking medication for it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you saw her have the seizure on this one particular incident, did she take anything afterwards?
No.
Did she mention like, hey, I need my medication?
No.
Okay. Did you give her a glass of water or anything?
I really don't remember. I probably did.
Did you probably did, you don't remember?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. Was this one of the times that you had, and you and her were smoking?
No.
Okay. So you guys were just, what were you doing when this incident happened?
Probably watching a movie or something.
Probably.
Watching a movie. I'm just gonna say watching.
Okay. And where were you at, location-wise?
It was at her friend's house, or Lehman's house. She was staying with at the time.
Okay. Were you aware that Zion possibly was molested? Did she disclose that to you?
No.
She never disclosed that to you? Did you ever inquire on why she possibly wanted to kill herself? Did you ever ask?
I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know. No, I don't remember. So
You don't remember?
no.
Okay. Did it concern you when she expressed that she wanted to kill herself?
Yes.
Okay, but you don't remember whether or not you asked why, though, right?
I mean, cause you feel me, just teenagers. You feel me, just sad over like I don't know, just regular life stuff. You feel me?
So to you, that's normal behavior if somebody threatening to kill himself?
I mean, people should be taught.
I'm not talking about people. To you, is that normal behavior?
I've said it before, so yes, normal. I mean, I guess teenagers would be saying stuff like that. So, feel me?
But you knew she was in a dark place, though, right? At times.
I guess so. Yes.
I want you to guess. These are your words. You said she was in a dark place before, correct?
Yes.
And she was in a dark place when you met her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever follow up and try to inquire on why she was in this dark place?
I don't remember.
How long have you been dating prior to her expressing to you that she wanted to kill herself?
I don't remember.
Was it the first week? Was it a couple months? If you had to just estimate.
I don't remember. Around that, I don't remember. So.
And she said she was going to take some pills to kill herself?
No.
She didn't, or you don't remember?
She never said nothing about taking no pills.
Okay. How did she say she was going to kill herself?
She never disclosed that to me, but she never said she was gonna kill herself. I mean, she never. My bad. She never said how she was gonna kill herself.
Okay. Did you think it was of a concern when she said that?
What you mean? Like,
Did you think there was an issue?
Judge, objection asked and answered. I think this is the fifth time that
he
question.
said that like 4 or 5 times, bro.
I'll move on. Now, the day that the last time you spoke to Zion, you said that you heard the voice when she was getting into the car?
Yes.
Okay.
She was in
Do you know where she was getting into the car from?
her mom's house.
Her mom's house? Okay. So you were actually talking to her on the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
As she was getting into the car and sat down.
And you stated that you submitted all your phone records to the police, correct?
Yes.
And the question was asked of you whether or not you were happy about Zion going over to Jaylin's house. You weren't upset about it, were you?
No.
Okay. As a matter of fact, in your text message to her, you told her, I want you to chill with him, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And it was your understanding that that was her favorite cousin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you took a screenshot of her location. Did you always do that?
No.
How frequently do you take a screenshot of her location?
Never.
Never?
Yeah.
Okay. You just did it this one time?
Yes.
Okay. You thought she was possibly cheating on you?
I don't know what. Yes. Probably. Trying to make sure she's straight. I just be, you know.
You just be worrying about her sometimes?
Yeah, just be worried.
Okay.
Make sure
But
she's safe.
She goes to different places that's not in your company at times, correct?
No.
She never goes anywhere without you?
I mean, she don't never leave the house, like her own house. She don't never go nowhere for her. She usually be at the house with her mom's.
Okay, sometimes she goes to her friend's house, a Lumen house, correct?
I don't believe that she went over there, like, when she was at her mom's house the last couple months, but I don't remember. I don't believe.
Hey, you want to make a reapproach?
Sure.
I think it's interesting how they allow the jury to ask questions, and I guess that's the state of Michigan. I guess that's their thing. But then I also heard somebody say that that's also the preference of the judge as well. But I like it when they allow the jury to ask questions when the witness is up on the statement. I mean, when the witness is up on the stand giving their statements.
Now, were you aware that at times Zion would leave with other people, other guys? You were not aware of that?
Sometimes she hang with her friends, like dude friends, but I'd be cool with that. Like, I know.
Okay. So you admit that there are times that she leaves that you're not there, correct?
You saying like when she was at her mom? I don't just listen. You saying when she was
Yes
at
or no?
her Duke's house, her mom's house, like last 2 months?
I'm speaking anytime.
She has went out with people before.
Okay. And during those times, do you screenshot or ping her location or track her location?
No. I look at it to see where she at, but I don't take a screenshot.
You don't take a screenshot?
Yeah.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect?
Yes, just briefly. Mr. Gonzalez, there was a mention of something about Zion saying she wanted to kill herself. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say you've heard other people make statements like that? I want to kill myself.
Yes.
Did you view this as like some sort of genuine desire that she was about to act on, or just an offhand statement?
It's offhand statement.
Okay. The issue about seizures. Do you know for sure whether Zion was on any type of medications?
I'm not for sure.
Okay. Do you know for sure what type of medication she was on?
No.
Do you know for sure that she had a history of seizures?
She said it to me, but I've never seen them before.
Okay. You just saw this one instance where you said passed out for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And what is it that led you to conclude that was a seizure?
Because she had discussed that with me before.
Okay. And did in the course of your interactions with Zion, did she ever fib about anything?
Yes.
Okay. How frequently?
Frequently.
Frequently?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Nothing further.
Any recross?
It was your understanding that she was taking medication for seizures, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and that was based upon the conversation you had with her, correct?
What I remember. So I believe so. I'm not 100% sure.
But you did testify at the preliminary examination that it was your understanding that she was taking medication for her seizures, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any questions from the jury? Okay, please fold them in half and pass them to the deputy. Counsel, please approach. Exhibit Zion complained of headache via text. Did she complain of headaches often?
No, not really. I mean, not that I remember. I'm gonna say I don't remember.
Did she have one before she seized, passed out?
Like, did she discuss that on the phone, basically? Like, did she have a
If
headache?
you know, did she
I
have
don't
a headache
remember.
before she passed out?
I don't remember. Oh, you talking about when she had the seizure? You talking
Yeah.
about? I don't remember.
Okay. Did she say she did LSD or mushrooms when asked?
I asked her, have she done something like that? She said no. She said she would never do that.
Was there any involuntary movement, incontinence? Was she immediately back to baseline after passing out?
I think she was like, she got back to regular, obviously, you know, she just woke back up, so she was just like chill for a little second, but then she got back to regular, basically.
Was she disoriented?
No.
Did you and Zion go to the same school? Were you in the same grade?
We was in the same grade, but not the same school.
Okay. Any follow-up questions based on those?
None from the people, Your Honor.
Just a couple of brief questions. So you stated that you asked her about if she took LSD or mushrooms, correct?
Yes.
And she said no, right?
Yeah.
You also indicated that she had a history of quote-unquote fibbing a lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you asked her if she took LSD for a reason, didn't you?
Not for a reason.
You
No.
just asked her just because?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when asked about the question about whether or not she was disoriented, you made some type of gesture like she was chill from it, like you kind of moved your head a little bit, like.
I had to think about the question.
Okay. So she was disorientated for maybe a second or two from your memory, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's the question.
All right, sir, thank you. You can step down. Please try to avoid our natural tendency for nonverbal answers such as shrugs of the shoulder, nods of the head, as well as uh-huhs and uh-huhs, because those don't translate into the record. If there's an objection, please stop talking until it's resolved. Please keep your voice up. And if you would, please state your name and spell it.
My name is Katrina Smith, Katrina Smith.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Smith, do you know Jaylin Brazier?
Yes.
And how long have you known him?
For 7 years.
And what's the nature of your relationship with him historically over those 7 years?
We worked together
How long were you together?
for 7 years.
Okay. Are you still together?
No.
Okay. Do you have children together?
Yes.
How many children?
3.
And how old are your children?
4, 3, and 1.
Okay. And just for the record, do you see Mr. Brazier in court today?
Yes.
And could you just point to him and describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing a blue tux with a green shirt.
If the record could reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
So reflect.
And Ms. Smith, is it fair to say we've had a couple of conversations over the past week together?
Yes.
And during those conversations, is it true that I've assured you that you're not someone that's being investigated or under threat of prosecution in this case? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand, though, that you are under oath today and have to tell the truth. Is
Yes.
that correct? Did you know Zion Foster?
No, not personally.
Did you have any sort of familiarity with her?
No.
Okay. Had you seen her before?
I've seen her before through a family event.
Okay. Do you know to what extent back in 2001 and 2002 that Mr. Brazier had any sort of relationship with Zion Foster?
Oh yeah, he's her cousin.
Okay. Do you know how much they hung out?
No, I know that they communicated through phone, but I never seen them communicate like in person, like seen them hang out with each other in person.
Okay. And back in January of 2022, where did you live at that time?
I lived on the house that's on Greenfield Road.
Greenfield? Okay. And who lived there with you at that time?
Me, Jaylin, and our 3, well, currently, at the time it was our 2 children.
Okay. And what type of residence was that? Was it like
It was like a duplex.
a duplex? Did anyone live next door at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to take you back to January 4th and 5th of 2022. Did you work at around that time?
Yes.
And where did you work?
It was a factory called Dakota Integrated Systems
And where was that factory located?
in Hazel Park.
Okay. And did you work a particular shift at around that time?
Midnight shift.
Midnights. Okay. What were your hours like then? Did you start?
It was 11 to 6 a.m.
Okay. And if while you were away at work, Zion had come over to your house, would that have been strange or out of the ordinary?
Yes.
Would that have surprised you?
Yes.
Okay. Back on January 4th of 2022, did you go to work that night?
Yes.
And do you have some memory of that night?
Yes.
How did you get to work that night?
Jaylin drove me.
He drove you? Okay.
Yes.
And how were you feeling that night? Was anything kind of going on out of the ordinary for you?
I was feeling very nauseous, having really intense nauseous. I was having heat flashes, couldn't really stand up. So I tried to see if I could stay at my job for a long time because at the time I was the only one working. So, yeah, I was feeling really, really sick.
Okay. At some point, did you end up going home that night?
Yes.
Did you go home a little bit early?
Yes.
And how did you get home?
Jaylin picked me up.
Okay. And was and like not to pry, but was anything like going on medically with you at that time?
I was pregnant. That's when we found out I was pregnant with my 3rd child.
Okay. And I want to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 39. I'm sorry, 37. Text messages. May I approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Ms. Smith, I'm handing you what's been marked as proposed exhibit 37, and I want to ask you about that document. Did you exchange some text messages with Mr. Brazier on January 4th and January 5th of 2022?
Yes.
At some point, did you give your cell phone over to the Detroit police briefly and then get it back from them?
Yes.
And was it your understanding that the phone was going to be sort of forensically extracted?
Yes.
And that document that you're holding, marked as proposed exhibit 37 rather, does that contain copies of your text messages with the defendant from that January 4th and January 5th of 2022 timeframe?
Yes.
And do those appear to be fair and accurate depictions of the messages that you exchanged with him at around that time?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit proposed exhibit 37.
No objection.
Okay, submitted.
Thank you. And may I publish?
Yes.
And Ms. Smith, I'm just going to ask you some questions about a handful of these messages. Sorry, 1 second. And just so we can orient ourselves, the messages in blue, who are those messages like attributed to?
Jaylin.
Okay, and what's the number that he was using at that time?
313-575-3450.
Okay, and then if we go down to like the messages in green, who are those messages attributed to at that time?
Me.
Okay, and then I want to kind of scroll down. If you go down to page 7, at the very top of that page, there's a message that appears that you sent to Mr. Brazier, is that correct?
Yes.
And what would be the time and date of that particular message?
January 4th, 2022 at 1:05 a.m.
Okay, and there's some discussion about you being pregnant at the time?
Yes.
And so it'd be fair to say that the two of you were aware that you were pregnant by this point on January 4th of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go down to, let me just ask this. In terms of your communications with Mr. Brazier that night, was there any mention of Zion?
No.
So there's no mention that she was going to be over the house that night?
No.
Okay. And I want to ask if you can go down to page 18. You see the message at the bottom there?
Yes.
And what's the time and date of that message?
January 4th, 2022, 10:43 p.m.
And what did Mr. Brazier text you at that point?
Home.
And what did you take that to mean?
That he made it home after he dropped me at the emergency room.
At the emergency, would this be, and let's keep the date in mind, because I think you testified that you were going to work this particular night?
Yeah, I was, but I also called off to let them know that I wasn't feeling well. So I had to go to the emergency room to see what's wrong with me because I didn't understand why I was experiencing like intense like nausea. I couldn't eat nothing, I couldn't drink water, and I kept throwing up clear fluid. So that's why I went to the emergency room.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking, did you go to the ER the night before, sort of? Was there a
Before I went to work.
Okay, the night before, and then you get home and then you go to work the following night, is it? I just want to make sure we have our dates right here.
I believe so, yes. Yes, I did.
Okay. And so this message where Mr. Brazier says home, again, it's January 4th at 10:43 p.m.?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And then I want to go back to the other message we talked about up on page 7, okay?
Page 7.
Up at the top of page 7 where there was the discussion about you being pregnant. And it appears that that's January 4th at 1:05 a.m., so earlier, correct?
Yes.
And just to be clear, would that have been when you were at the emergency room?
Yes.
Okay, and so you come back from the emergency room, and then by 10 p.m. that same day on January 4th, is that when you're going to work,
Yes.
right? Okay. And so when the defendant texted you home at 10:43 p.m. on January 4th,
He was letting me know that he went home.
after dropping off from work?
Yes.
Okay. And just going to the next page. Down at the bottom of page 19, there's a message. What time was that message sent?
11:30 p.m.
And what did that message read?
How are you feeling? And no problem.
And what was your response to that message?
Sick and I can't breathe with this mask on.
Okay. And then I want to scroll down to page 21 at the top. What did you message him at that point?
I'm really getting tired of feeling like this.
And what was his response?
I know, baby. I know, baby. It's just baby Ava testing your patience.
And was that just a reference to the fact that you were pregnant at the time?
Yes.
Okay. If we scroll down to page 22 toward the middle, there's a message that you sent. What did you write at that time?
I want to come home and lay down.
And what time was that sent?
11:46 p.m.
And what was the response to that?
I bet, baby.
And then the next message down at the bottom of page 22, what did you write at that point?
How are you feeling?
And at the top of page 23, what did you write?
I don't know why my messages are not sending.
Was there any issue going on with your phone from what you remember?
It was like a little delay. Like my messages wasn't going through.
Okay. Did they ultimately go through though?
Yes.
Okay. And then what response did you get after that?
Tired, probably going to smoke a little and go to sleep.
And what time was that sent to you?
12:04 a.m.
Okay, and I want to scroll down to page 25. Toward the middle, there's a message at 12:23 a.m. What does that message say?
The third one.
Second one down. Sorry.
I don't feel good.
And what was the next message that you sent?
But how's your high?
And what was the response that you received?
Relaxing AF. Actually fell asleep
And what does AF indicate?
as fuck.
Okay. And that message was sent at what time?
12:36 a.m.
Okay. And I want to go down to 1:25 a.m. on page 26. Did you send a message at that time?
Oh, that's good. I'll leave you to it. LOL.
What about the next one under that?
I
think I need to come home.
And what time did you send that message?
1:25 a.m.
And did you send a message right after that?
Yes.
And what did you write?
I don't feel good.
And what time was that message sent?
1:26 a.m.
And what response did you receive?
You can make it, baby.
And what time was that sent?
1:28 a.m.
And was there any follow-up? If you go to the next page, what was the next message that was sent to you?
But what do you mean?
And that was sent also at 1:28 a.m.?
Yes.
And what did you write at that point?
My stomach hurts and I feel sick and I keep getting hot and cold.
And what time did you write that?
1:32 a.m.
Okay, and what's the next message?
Okay, baby, do you want me to come now?
And when was that response received?
2:12 a.m.
So that would be about 40 minutes after
Yes.
your last message?
Yes.
And what was the next message after you wrote, okay, baby, do you want me to come now?
I'll hop in the shower to kick this high off.
And what time was that sent?
2:12 a.m.
Then if you go to the next page, looks like there's some more discussion about him possibly coming to get you. Is that fair to say?
I would let him know if I want to come home after my break.
Okay. And his response was what?
Okay, well, I'm up, so just call me.
And that was sent at what time?
2:20 a.m.
Okay. And if you go down to page 29, the first blue message, what does that read?
Nyla scratched my neck.
And what time was that sent?
2:21 a.m.
And what does the word Nyla refer to?
My black cat that I had at the time.
Okay. And what was your response to receiving that message?
What do you mean? She was walking over you?
And what response did you receive after that?
I was trying to tickle her stomach and she beat my ass.
And what time was that message sent?
2:25 a.m.
I want to scroll down at page 32, toward the middle. You see the blue message?
Yes.
And what does that message read?
I'm on my way now, okay?
And what time was that sent?
2:37 a.m.
And at some point after that, did he come to pick you up?
Yes.
And did he bring you back to your house together?
Yes.
That night, did you happen to see whether there was a scratch on him?
After we came home and we went to go take a shower, I did see a scratch right here.
When you say right here, can you just describe where it was?
Right here. It was like a scratch.
Like on
right
the
here.
collarbone area?
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe what the scratch was like?
It was a big scratch right here.
Okay. Was there blood?
Yes.
Okay. Was it, I guess, would it have been out of the ordinary at all for Nyla to scratch in that way?
Yes, because she never scratched that deep before to draw that much blood.
Okay. That night when you were interacting with Mr. Brazier, did he seem normal to you?
Yes.
Did he seem like he was in any state of panic?
No.
At some point, did Mr. Brazier end up in prison for a brief period of time?
Yes.
And when he was in prison, did you have some communications with him?
Yes.
And were some of those communications like recorded sort of phone calls through the prison phone system?
Yes.
And did you have a way to send and receive text messages with him?
Yes.
And let me ask, was that sort of a authorized way of sending text messages to and from him?
Not really.
Okay, and I guess, can you elaborate on that if you can?
He texted me off of a different phone.
Okay, and was it your understanding that he had a phone in his cell
Yes.
that he probably shouldn't have had under like prison regulations, right?
Yes.
I'm holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 71. May I approach?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, does Proposed Exhibit 71 contain copies of some of the messages that you exchanged with Mr. Brazier when he was in prison?
Yes.
And I showed you sort of a lengthier version of that had like 250 pages, is that correct?
Yes.
And a lot of those messages are just kind of private communications between the two of you that have nothing to do with this case, would that be correct?
Yes.
But does this contain some messages about the investigation?
Yes.
And does this document that's been marked as Proposed Exhibit 71 fairly and accurately depict the messages that you exchanged with Mr. Brazier?
Yes.
And when you were exchanging these messages, I mean, who was your understanding you were messaging back and forth with?
Him. Jaylin.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit Proposed Exhibit 71.
Any objection?
I think it's a better foundation possibly on how she knew that this was Jaylin. Did she just assume that she was texting Jaylin from these phones?
Can I ask one or two follow-up questions?
Yeah, Ms. Smith, in this, if we were to look at like the full string of messages that I sent you, would we see photos of him sending photos of himself to you?
Yes.
And so you received those photos from this specific phone number that's referenced here, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's a 313, is it 925?
925-615.
Okay, and that's the number that you communicated with the understanding that you were communicating with the defendant?
Yes.
And at some point during the course of exchanging these messages, did you also actually have like voice calls with that specific number?
Yes.
And when you had those voice calls, who was it that you were speaking with?
Jaylin.
Okay. And some of those voice calls, is it fair to say they were contemporaneous with these messages?
Yes.
So maybe you were on the phone and he's actually texting you while you're on the phone together?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I move to admit, Your Honor.
All right, any move?
And may I publish?
Yes. This is Exhibit 71?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And in terms of some of these messages, I just want to ask a couple of questions about them. If we go down to page, I guess it's marked as page 8, but it's the second page in the exhibit that you have. Do you see the photo in that message?
Yes.
And who's in that photo?
Jaylin.
Okay. And again, the blue messages are his messages, correct?
Yes.
And the green messages are yours?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about page 103. It'd be the very next page in the report that you have. Do you see this second message from the top? It's like a Google URL.
Yes.
I guess, do you know what's in that specific web link?
I believe it was a video of the landfill search.
Like a news report about the landfill search?
Yes.
Okay. And so was that something, when was this message sent?
Is she speculating or does she know? She said she believed, I'm not sure.
Okay. Was that something you know, or are you just guessing?
I know that he sent me a landfill search.
Okay, and was that like a video of a news report about the landfill search?
Yes.
And that'd be a landfill search for Zion's body? And when was this message sent, if you can just read the date?
September 20th, 2022.
And at the time that that message was sent, were you kind of following the news reports about this case?
No.
Okay. Is it something you wanted to tune out, I
Yes.
assumed? And I want to go down to, it's going to be 206 in your packet. The very bottom message, the green one, is this a message that you sent to the defendant?
Yes.
And what is it that you wrote at that point?
Man, baby, I can't believe I missed my niece's birthday. My first niece that I took care of was there. I haven't seen her in so long. I just seen a recent picture of her, and I cried, laughing my ass off.
And when was this sentence? I'm sorry, this message sent, Ms. Smith?
I believe October 1st, 2022.
Okay, and then just going down to the very next message on the next page. Can you read what you wrote at that point?
But there's a new detective looking into your case, and they called your auntie Sheila asking to talk to your cousin Elijah, asking your auntie to see if he could go to them so they can talk to him about the case and what he knows.
Okay, and so at this time, was there something that happened that I guess prompted you to send this to him?
Yes, his mom told me
That's an
to.
objection to whatever his mother said here, sir.
Yeah, I guess without getting into anything that someone else specifically said, because that's hearsay and we can't get into it, but like, did you become aware of steps being taken in the investigation that prompted you to reach out to Mr. Brazier at this time?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to scroll down. Would it be fair to say that at this time you and Mr. Brazier had some discussions about sort of the status of the investigation?
And Your Honor, I would object to one of these text messages. It contains hearsay that's being listed on the screen at the right now, so not good.
Well, none of this is, I guess, other than the defendant's messages are offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but if there's any redactions that Mr. Brown wishes to make, I mean, we've obviously had these exhibits for a while, but I'm happy to redact anything that's inadmissible. I don't think anything is inadmissible here. But let me just say, suffice it to say, at around this time, were you having sort of discussions with Mr. Brazier about the status of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. During those discussions, did Mr. Brazier ever express to you that he hoped that Zion's body would be found?
He never brought her up. He
Okay.
never talked about her.
Did you ever try to talk to him about what happened with Zion?
I did ask him, but he never told me anything.
Okay. I want to scroll down. I wanted to scroll down to like page 211. You see there's like a series of like messages from the defendant, is that correct?
He said 211.
Yeah.
Yes.
And are you guys having like a voice call while these messages are being exchanged?
Yes.
Okay. And so part of what he's saying to you, he's not saying out loud, but he's saying in these messages when you're talking to him directly, right?
Yes.
Okay. That kind of goes on for a number of pages. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
I want to go down to I want to go down to page 220 at the top. When was this message sent? What's the time and date on it?
October 22nd, 2022. I mean, October 2nd, 2022.
And what's the sort of like body of this message? Is this another website link?
Yes.
And do you see in the web address after it says search, it says
Yes.
google.com/search. What are the words that appear after the search?
With no evidence or confession of murder, can one still be charged with murder?
Okay. And then what's the very next message that was sent?
My bad, was studying.
And that was sent at around the same time?
Yes.
And if you go down to page 224 toward the bottom. What time was that message sent?
5:10 p.m.
And what was the date of that message?
October 2nd, 2022.
And again, is that another website link?
Yes.
And do you remember, did you visit that webpage?
Yes.
And is there like a specific article that appears on that webpage?
Yes.
And can you read just after where it says Quora.com, what are the words that appear after that?
If I'm a suspect in a murder, but a body is never found, can I be charged?
And if you go to the next message, what's the next message say?
I know, baby, it's okay. I plan out every step, so relax. And the attachment I just sent is the main one.
And how long was that sent after the sort of link about the article was sent?
5:11 p.m.
And the link was sent at what time?
5:11 p.m.
If you look at the link at on page 224 at the bottom.
For that brief interruption, looks like we do have that feedback of the courtroom. We're going to take that now.
Somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. This is based upon the nature of the conversations?
Yes.
Okay.
So from your understanding, it was multiple people who may have used this phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did any of these communications try to solicit information from you?
No, they just asked who was I? I
Okay.
just never responded.
You never responded?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Did they ever ask you for any pictures of yourself?
No.
Okay. Jaylin never expressed to you that he did not want Zion's body to be found, did he?
No, he never said anything like that.
Okay. Have you known Jaylin to be violent?
Towards me?
Judge, objection. Can we approach?
Sure.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, redirect.
Just briefly, Ms. Smith, in terms of the alleged child abuse issue that you mentioned, that was something that came up last summer before you testified at the preliminary examination. Is that correct?
Yes, this was after I had got subpoenaed.
After you got subpoenaed for the exam, right?
Yes.
And the exam was in August of 2023?
Yes.
And that, just to be clear, like you still have your kids, right?
Yes, I do.
And that didn't arise again in connection with you being subpoenaed for this particular trial date, correct?
No.
But you were briefly held in custody overnight and then released on a personal bond with sort of the assurance that you would appear in court, right?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. The other?
Just briefly, and with those allegations, do you know, if you know, what detective made these allegations against you?
It was a child abuse detective. Her name was Miss Brown.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Any questions from the jury? All right, please raise your hand and fill out the question, please. Was Mr. Brazier wearing the same clothes when he picked you up as when he dropped you off?
I don't remember what he was wearing. I wasn't paying attention to what he was wearing.
Okay. Why didn't you want to testify?
Safety reasons. Just since this whole thing started, I've been paranoid. I don't know if who's following me, who knows my face, who knows my car. After they threatened, or whoever threatened, I don't feel safe. I haven't been safe. I haven't been feeling safe at all. I don't want to test. I did want to testify.
Any follow-up questions based on that?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No further questions. All right.
A lot of people affected by this man's actions.
Dan, you can step down. Mr. Russell, you want to call your next witness?
Yes, at this time the people called David McGee.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and feel free to leave a comment. Have a blessed day.